that's got a while. And then the video now should pop up on the Men's Radio Facebook page telling you that it's gone live. There we go. I've just got it.
Your Facebook rust must drive you nuts.
Now, how do I do this? Do I just share it or what? If I go on to you, if I go on to us, James. No,
yeah, just click share.
Oh, it's disappeared completely.
And then you just do timeline.
I wouldn't mind, but this is ridiculous. This is absolutely bloody ridiculous.
Yeah. Is it like super slow?
It's
Let's share.
Oh, it's disappeared completely.
It's good.
What, is that going out now?
That is going out now, but
I wouldn't mind, but this is
why is that going out?
ridiculous.
One mic is not good.
Right. You ever had one of those days when your computer, and you want to pick your computer up and you want to just throw it against the wall as hard as you can, and then you pick up the little bits and you jump all over them and do like a little dance? That's how I'm feeling today. I'm Russ Kane, what's left of him. It's Sunday. Did you manage to change your clocks? What a pain in the arse. It's ridiculous. We're doing it for, that's my guest, you can hear chuckling away. We're doing it for the farmers, and I don't think they want it changed anyway. Just stick to one time. Wouldn't that be easy? Don't forget you've got to change your microwave. Then you get in your car, and after 3 months you realise you're an hour late for absolutely every meeting. It's brilliant. Brilliant. Well done, whoever came up with the changing of the clocks. Total crap. Now, this is Men's Radio Station, coming at you absolutely live from the centre of London in Covent Garden, which is always packed. Every shop is open, it never seems to close. Riding the desk as ever, boy wonder producer James Blake. And whenever I say that, I don't know if you can see, if you're watching Facebook Live, you can see just a little arm, because he has to do his boy wonder producer James Blake dance.
That's all you get is the little hand.
It's just get the hand movement. It's it's desperate, to be honest with you. It's absolutely bloody desperate. Now, before I introduce my guest, who I've known for years and is you're a very heavy breather, Barry. Do you know that? You're an incredibly heavy breather. No, I've been told. You can keep breathing, but you're a very, very heavy breather. You are breathing like, I don't know, like a Stephen King film or something when the phone goes. And it's somebody who just happens to be wearing their underwear, bizarrely, you know, has been living in the gym for the last 2 years. Anywho, I was just thinking, yesterday, which was the brighter amongst you will realise was Saturday, I was heading through town, and yeah, there was another demonstration here in the centre of London. I sat like a moron at Trafalgar Square with my engine off for 40 minutes while some group of protesters, all wearing yellow jackets, it's the French, all wearing yellow jackets, decided to be protesting. I was not a happy bunny, because it was my one day off, which I wanted to relax about. So sitting there for 40 minutes, the police standing on the pavement doing absolutely the square root of sod all. And I thought, well, what are they protesting about now? It can't be another Brexit thing, because they had one of those on Friday. And then the placard came past and it says, "Stop forced adoption." I wound my window down and told them to F off. I couldn't help it. I was just so furious, being sitting there for 40 minutes. Everyone was like living. I don't know. There's a strange mood in the country. There's a very strange mood. I honestly believe we're on the brink of a seminal moment in the history of the UK.
There's definitely an uneasy tension in the air. I agree with you there. When you walk the streets...
Oh, don't keep talking about your job, James. I've told you, we had the review, you're okay.
I've made it past.
For today. Monday's a whole different ball of wax.
Well, the sounds are working fine, so everything's I'm feeling good for today.
You're feeling good because we're there. Right. I'm going to bring my guest in and then we're going to chat about it because I want to. Barry Stickins, I first met during the very happy days of Capital Radio, where I was for 20 years, working alongside Chris Tarrant for 1984 to 2004 when I left. 20 years of that. In the Flying Eye. It was great fun. And then Barry and I, we were contacted. You were often on the breakfast show, and with your extraordinary son Toby, which we're going to come into. But the first thing is you come up from miles away. Well, so thank you, Barry, for coming in. I really appreciate it.
Pleasure. Absolute pleasure.
And you look remarkably well, but then you're always away.
Apparently.
As he said to me, that's called being retired. I hate him. Anyway, thanks for popping by, Barry. Bye.
No.
And so you have retired now?
I have retired.
Oh,
yeah,
man.
2.5 years.
You've never seen anybody look kind of so well, so fit and relaxed. It's really annoying. I wanted to retire when I was 40, several centuries ago. Ain't going to happen. Barry, thank you so much for coming into Men's Radio Station.
Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, don't be daft. It's an absolute pleasure. You and your remarkable son, Toby, have been part of my life in a strange, tangential way for a very long time, since he was a very little kid, and of course he's grown up now. Tell us what happened. Tell us the story when Toby was born.
Right. I think the easiest way is to go to 2:31 p.m.
Right.
on the 15th of June, 1989.
Right.
We're in Queen Mary's Hospital. Kelly is giving birth to Toby. I'm there, crying my eyes out, as every dad does. And if any dad says they don't, they're not telling the truth.
And it's Mother's Day, of course. So
and it's Mother. And yes, must say Happy Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day.
There.
Go on, James. Knock yourself out. Go on.
Happy Mother's Day. Hi, Mum.
God.
You've got the brownie points.
I got my brownie
You haven't
points.
met James's mother, have you, Barry?
No.
No. Okay. Moving on. So she's out of central casting for
Kelly's
Showbiz Mother of the Year. Oh, but Russ, what do you think of my wonderful... Isn't James great? Isn't he? Look at that little face. Isn't he great?
Please. I get enough of it at home, Russ. Please. I don't need it here.
Yeah, and I go, Miss Blake, right, we're working here.
Yeah.
Can we just leave the adoration of your son possibly at home? Yeah. Right, so you're giving birth...
Not personally.
No, obviously not.
But Kelly's there. She's doing what every brave lady does. And there's Toby.
Right.
And I just burst into tears. Kelly's crying. Yeah. And then they whip him away.
Yeah.
So you're thinking, I've obviously got to clean him up a bit.
Just give him a bit of a wash.
Just make him presentable.
Yeah.
And then it's 10 minutes. It's 15 minutes.
Oh, God.
And you start to think, and the midwife, they're dealing with Kelly. And then the next thing, the midwife comes in and says to us both, not really too sure what to say.
Oh, my God.
Said, your son, we knew Toby was going to have some kidney issues because we'd already had pre-scans, so we was aware of that. But they actually turned around and they said to us that Toby's been born without any eyes.
So if you're listening at home and you're thinking, what did Barry Stickins just say? Say it again, because I know people find that very hard to take in.
I mean, it was it was a rush of emotion for us. But when the midwife and the doctor came in and said, we've not seen this, and your son's been born without any eyes.
So just to be absolutely clear, because obviously I know, but then I've got the benefit of having known you for 20 years or so. He wasn't born blind. He was born physically without eyes.
What happens is, it's called bilateral anophtalmia. He's got eyelids, eyelashes, but the socket, the eye never develops. But what tends to happen is you get the optic nerve grows, and sometimes there is the tiniest little eye on the end. But because the development structure doesn't happen, the optic nerve dies. So it's 1 in 100,000 children. So we, I mean, you can imagine, what do you do? It's like the lorries hit us both, and lots of tears, lots of hugs, lots of crying.
Because you've gone from the wonderful joy of there's our baby, there's our little boy, and then suddenly you get the most horrendous and stomach-churning, awful news. So that emotional drop must be like falling in an elevator from the 50th floor.
And, Kelly and I, we're very strong people, but it knocked us completely off kilter. We were just, or we was a bit lost, and we said, oh, can you hear, we started going through all the things. Can you have an eye transplant? And the doctor said, well, we've never seen this because it's so rare. So we're thinking, well, what do we do? Where do we go? And then came the point where Toby's given back to us. So we have got a lovely son, which he is, and he tells me that now because he's 30.
How old is he?
He's 30.
He can't be 30.
He's 30. Yeah, tell me about it.
Jeez.
Yeah, he's 30.
30. Because you've got to understand why this is a shock. It's not a shock to you because you're his dad, but for me, because he was always little Toby, and we always used to talk about him on the show.
And the little man, he used to shout up to you because he thought that was the way to do it.
He thought when I flew over, he'd shout up. Plane.
Yeah. So really, then we were in a situation where we're together, we love each other, and we've got a beautiful son, but we've got this condition, and we knew he had a kidney issue. And so he's got a few days in the hospital, local hospital, and then we were taken to Great Ormond Street, and then we started all the process. But just prior to that, I had to go and tell, me and Kelly discussed it, and she said, we've got to tell everybody, and that was pretty hard. How? Telling family.
Did you? Now, this is awkward, but I hope I've known you long enough. No, because it's important, because your story, the reason why I wanted you as a guest, and I was so pleased when you said is that your story is inspirational. And what we try to do here on Men's Radio Station is bring in both experts, discuss their area of expertise, which we do. We've got some amazing people on board. But also to get people who are, what I say, going through it. Because listeners think, and they gain so much from your experience, even if it doesn't exactly correlate to their own their own traumas in their lives, they can say, well, all right, this is how this man, Barry Stickins, and his wife dealt with this horrendous and huge problem. So it's an important thing. When you had to tell people, and I've been through this myself, when you've had to tell people really, really bad news, did it divide, and I have no idea, so I'm querying it, did it divide into two camps, whereby one was like, oh my God, what can we do to help? And the others didn't want to know because they were so freaked out?
Everybody was positive.
That's amazing.
That's nice, yeah.
That's amazing.
We had no family or friends go, oh, horror, shock. Because Toby, he looks like a normal kid. Just the fact he had his eyes were shut.
He does,
so that was it.
I mean, if you're trying to wonder when you're listening to the show and you're thinking, well, I wonder what he looks like. Well, it looks like a guy simply walking around with his eyes shut, doesn't it?
Whereas now he's got artificial eyes, he's got prosthetic eyes, which he's had for a long, long time. Yeah. But at that time, he was so young. He was a baby.
He was a baby.
And there was lots of other things that we got told, like when we got to Great Ormond Street, he might have a heart murmur. He might have this, he might have that. And so your whole emotions are going through the turmoil. And obviously Kelly and I have got to support each other.
Yes.
Because you've got to support each other.
How was the stress on you? I'm sorry, I'm putting on some hand gel because travelling through London is like walking through a sewer. I'm just fanatical about it. How much of a stress did that put on your relationship?
This is going to sound very strange. It put none.
Because why? That again
Kelly is a very strong lady.
Yeah.
And what we did, because we spoke and we sat and we cried, but we hugged our little boy and we said, we can't change anything here. So we have a lovely little son and we're just going to get on with life. The biggest issue for us was his kidneys, because that was life-changing. in some respects. The blindness obviously is life-changing, but the kidney side was more, because Toby ended up having lots of operations. He was in hospital for like 4 months in Great Ormond Street, and for the next, I'd say, 5 years, we were backwards and forwards. He had big operations on his kidneys, and touch wood, if I may.
Yeah, you may. Well, you can touch Formica or whatever.
Touch Formica, yeah.
Touch
it's
MDF,
close, yeah.
Whatever the hell this is, I don't know.
But then, he just, I mean, I was in the police at the time, and Kelly was, she'd just been all through college.
Were you playing bass, or you weren't Stuart Copeland?
I was the one in the background.
You're Stuart Copeland, aren't you? You were on drums.
Yeah, see? That's what you didn't realise.
I never knew that. But then you had a row with Sting and the band broke up.
That's right, yeah.
So you were in the police, and
they were brilliant. They were brilliant.
Because they always get a bad rep, don't they? The police get, I mean, especially in London, they get the worst rep.
And because Cressida Dick was my boss, basically, with
What rank was she then?
She was inspector.
If you don't know who she is, she's the grand fromage of police. She's the number one top police person in policeland in the UK. So she's a hugely important figure.
And she's still a friend. And
she really?
Yeah. Still saw her the other month. And
wow.
The police were brilliant. They just said to me, "You need time." And they gave me time.
What were you, a detective?
No, I was a PC.
Were you?
Yeah. Very proud as well, being a police constable.
Bless you.
I disappeared into other things later in life, but there we go.
Criminality.
That's right.
No, bank robbery. Doing the Hatton Garden job with Michael Caine.
Basically, the police were brilliant, and everybody who knows us or knew us then, nobody was ever negative, because we said, we're going to get on with this.
Did you ever feel, and this is a difficult question, I wouldn't ask unless I kind of knew, did you feel cheated in some way? Was there any point where you were angry? Because I felt that. So
I've never
it's
been
more about me than about you.
I've never been angry. I've never been angry. I've been upset.
Sure.
I've been annoyed. We've asked why, but now we know why. But we never went negative, because we had a great group of family and friends around us.
Yeah, good support around you, good support structure.
And the support is so important.
It's essential.
Support is the most important thing. We all need support at times. And I must admit, there were times which, Kelly, I know Kelly's listening, she might be a little shocked, but there was times when I sat and I cried, and I just thought, God, I've got my son, but he's blind. But then I looked at the flip side, and he's fun.
He is an amazingly fun. He's an amazingly fun.
He knows
guy.
no different, Russ. He's just Toby, and that's the important thing.
That's the thing, Barry. It's like he never knew what it was to have sight.
No.
So I guess if you never had it, I can't think of anything worse than if you had it and then you lose it. It's like anything in life, isn't it?
Yeah.
But if that's all you've ever known, then somehow that is your baseline, isn't it?
It is your baseline.
It's one of the things we talk about a lot on Men's Radio Station, of course, is loneliness. And even though we come out of the centre of London with what's the working population in London? 8 million or 10 million?
10, isn't it?
I think it's like 10 million or so. It can be like any big city, it can be incredibly lonely. And people listening around the world, wherever you are, it can be lonely. So the fact that you had this wonderful support system, both with your colleagues in the police force, which people I think would be surprised and delighted to hear that.
No, they were brilliant.
Yeah. I'm going to ask you a question in a minute, which is completely tangential, but I need to ask you. And then you've got the family, because I tell you why I came at this, Barry. When my late wife was diagnosed with cancer and everything, people would cross the street if we were walking along. And you can make a cheap joke if you want, but don't bother. And it's like, wow, what do you think? It's catching? You don't catch it. It's not like the flu. And people's reactions were extraordinary. Some people were fantastically kind, and other people I've never spoken to since. And when it was after, I got a letter once. It was a misunderstanding. I said, well, it's a misunderstanding for 6 years that you buggered off and I never heard from you.
Yeah.
Take a hike. Or worse to that effect. So you kind of came through that very lucky. What is he like as a person?
As a person, he's brilliant. He is inspirational. He is thoughtful. He's kind. He's funny. He's annoying, Toby, at times.
Actually, he could be annoying.
Yeah,
but the great thing
he's annoying in a great way.
The great thing, the way that Chris Tarrant used to treat him was like anybody else, and if it was annoying, he would just go, "You're really hacking me off. Shut up, Toby."
And Chris never mentioned that Toby was blind.
No.
Ever.
No.
But Toby, Toby, he went to mainstream school.
How, I'm going to ask, because I don't know, how does that work?
Yeah,
they have a vision impairment unit within the school, so he would get a one-to-one.
Did you have to find a special school?
We're quite lucky. Local authority, they supplied the one-to-ones. We had a great lady called Jean Kavanagh who helped us when Toby was very young, and then Toby just ended up going into regular mainstream, and then he went to...
But I've got to hold you there.
Sorry,
No, because I'm just fascinated. He goes to school. Is he sitting with his classmates?
Oh, yeah. Oh, he's still got friends from primary that he sees now. Wow. As we all do. We grow up with our friends.
I'm like the same. I've been my best friend. We've been friends since we were 9.
Yeah.
He's done a bit better than me, but there we go. Having been made a Knight of the Realm. There's no resentment, James. It's fine.
They just thrown him out, Russ. Don't worry.
Yeah, you're right. He's done absolutely nothing apart from run every institution in the country. He's a genius. And another thing we deal with here, because there's so many things that spring out of this, another thing we deal with a lot is bullying. Now, because Toby's 30, we didn't have Tinternet in those days, so that's a lucky break, because the little swines with the keyboard warriors hadn't yet been born. Nothing like that?
No.
All supportive? Wow.
His friends were great. His friends were good. Do you know the people who were strange? It was when Toby was young, and we'd be pushing him along in the buggy or whatever, and somebody come and go, "Oh, what's the matter with him?"
Good God.
And I used to go,
"Good God,
what's the matter with you?" Because I used to get quite, and Kelly used to have to go, 4 breaths, calm down, step back, because I get very...
People were that rude?
Oh, yeah.
Well, they just come up to a total stranger, look in the buggy and just say... just say, what's the matter with him?
What's the matter with him? Oh, we had that. And the other thing we still...
This is what I'm talking... This James, you're sitting there like you've been hit by a fish. I mean, it's incredible, isn't it? The rudeness of people never fails to...
But Rush, you still get it now.
I can't believe it.
Well, they still come up to you now?
No, we'll be... And Kelly's really good. Kelly's clever. She's very shrewd.
I'd have kept my truncheon from the police force and just smacked him in the face.
I could say I've still got it, but I haven't.
Of course you haven't.
No, I gave it in.
Cufflinks or handcuffs are another matter. Right, moving on.
But
Kelly.
we will be out.
Yeah.
And we'll be in a restaurant. We'll be somewhere else in the world or wherever, and be sitting there. And somebody will just be looking at Toby like that.
Staring.
So Kelly will go, "Oh, excuse me, would you like to speak to Toby?" It's a great icebreaker.
That's a good one.
It's a good one.
And what do they recoil?
And they sort of like, But the other one is children. But children, you can't knock children. Because if somebody is
getting children your way on the street,
well, there is
I do my elbows.
But what it is, you'll get children, and they'll look at Toby like that, and we do the same thing, but in a nicer way. We say, "Oh, this is Toby," and Toby go, "Oh, hello," and they just look because his artificial eyes are different, but he looks okay, like for 90% of it. Yeah. But there is that slight thing. But kids. And you go, "Oh, Toby's blind, he hasn't got any eyes." "Oh, okay then," and they just accept.
Kids are very accepting, don't they?
Very acceptable.
Because they haven't formed sort of judgmental views of everything, and that, like they say, no one's born a racist.
No, they're great.
True.
Kids are good. They're very accepting. And when I was doing all the charity work, this is what we found. You have to think of siblings. Of the children who've got the conditions, very important. You have to think of them because they're within that spectrum of that family that need support.
It's interesting. There's another charity that I'm involved with. I'm not going to name it. And the little boy, out of the second night, my dad, he went to bed and died in his sleep.
Oh, that's awful.
Hadn't been diagnosed with nothing. He just bang, he died. A beautiful little boy. And I was introduced to the parents, and we became sort of friends and everything like that. And in the midst of all that, and everyone, of course, is talking to the parents and the charity that they've started, and they've done really, really well, and so they should. It was a heart condition that no one had seen, and came out of nowhere. And horrendous. Every time I see his photo, I well up. I'll be quite honest with you, I do. And I never met him. I never knew him. It's just the thought of it. You know, when you're a dad, the thought of something happening to your kids is just it's a heartbreak. And he has a sister, and sometimes she and I chat. And of course, as you say, sometimes the siblings are almost overlooked in the overall horror and sadness of the situation.
Very much. And I think one of the biggest things that we found in the beginning, we didn't know anybody else who had children with the same condition.
It is very rare, though, isn't it?
It is very rare. But basically, the Observer newspaper did an article.
Right.
And from that, a load of families all met up.
They all came forward?
All came forward.
Wow.
Met up. And from there, people went away and said, well, we need to do something. And that's when some of the ladies got together. Can I mention them?
Mention who you like, of course.
Thank you. There was Maggie Bourne, Javira Memon, and a few other ladies, and us as well. And we sat there and we all chatted, going, God, what do we need for our kids? Yeah. We need support. And my big thing was, you need support. You should have somebody who can empathise with you, who understands, because only somebody who's got a blind child, a totally blind child with bilateral anophtalmia, can understand what it's like for you and your family and your children. And then that's when the charity Max got formed, and it went on and it's still going on now. It's there to support people. And
I'm going to discuss all of that sort of stuff, but the time has flown with absolutely flown with you. By the way, if you wish to phone in, I've forgotten. I get so involved in the conversation. I always forget. I always just think I'm chatting to a friend, and I forget it's actually radio. What are we on? 0203 290 4411. You're going to play the jingle for me? Come on, play the jingle. I'll just read it.
0203 290 4411.
Every time we play that, David Mendel in the south of France gets £100,000. It's marvellous. Hi, David. He's sitting there drinking his vin rouge. No, he's on rosé, isn't it? Yeah.
Can I just mention one thing?
You go ahead.
Right, Toby came out of an analogy one day, and he said, being blind is not my problem, it's other people.
Wow. I told you this is an exceptional kid. Well, kid is 30, Jesus. But he's always been exceptional. Being blind is not my problem, it's yours.
It's other people's.
It
says it all, doesn't it?
What a fabulous thing to say. Yeah. And while you're all reading and going, oh, wasn't that great, Barry Stickins, what a guest, it's time to pay the rent.
You're listening to Russ Kane on
Men's radio station, where men really talk.
Hello, I'm Lawrence Davis. I'm the proud owner of Started Cigars in Mayfair and Knightsbridge. For the past 60 years, we've been providing the world's best Cuban cigars. When it comes to cigars, there's no other than Started Cigars from Mayfair and Knightsbridge. We at Starters would like to wish Men's radio station every support in their task for helping men's emotional and mental well-being. Check them out. Men's radio station, where men really talk.
Your call is important to us. You are now number 15 in a queue.
At Profile Insurance Services, we treat people as individuals. You'll speak to a real person, not a call centre. We're fast, small, independent, and have a superb team of insurance specialists. And they're really nice too. Advice is totally free and we cover everything. Call 0208 931 3306. Listeners to Men's radio station won't pay a penny for admin fees. That's 0208 931 3306. With Profile Insurance Services, you're covered.
Let me tell you about Jermyn Street Theatre. We are the smallest theatre in the West End, only 70 seats. We are a registered charity and not grant-aided, run by a small team of volunteers and trustees. Jermyn Street Theatre is a hidden gem. It combines the comfort and convenience of the West End with the intimacy of a studio. Every seat has a perfect view of the stage, and even a whisper is audible. This is a secret theatre in the heart of the West End, once found, never forgotten.
Slick 50 Barbershop is in Westcliff-on-Sea, Essex. Lane, specialist in retro haircuts, has been trading since 1987. Music and lifestyle are our inspiration. You can also purchase merchandise and 2 Sweet Pomade. The shop is open Tuesday, Thursday, Friday and Saturday. Please call 01702 390 916 to book your haircut. Visit barbershoprockabilly.co.uk, Slick 50 Barbershop on Instagram. Gracias.
Not ready for making tax digital? Struggling to keep up with changes? Or do you simply need a friendly and reliable face to handle your accounting needs? With over 20 years of experience, BBK Partnership in 5 London areas provide personal advice, and all our partners are readily available in person and by phone at times that suit you. Give BBK a call today, 0208 216 2520, or visit our website, bbkca.com.
You're listening to Men's Radio Station, where men really talk.
And we are back in the studio live in Covent Garden. Just remember, if you are listening, you can always join us on Facebook and join in the conversation, where you can post any questions and we will answer them live on air. You can also phone us on our lovely phone number, and because I will play the jingle.
0203 290 4411.
I love that.
And we can do it because Phil Dave is away, and he hates that. So, Phil, if you're listening, that's right. We can do what we want, because you're not here. We don't have to look up you pulling a face every time we play the jingle, which we had made. Anyway, there we are. You had a load of questions that you wanted to ask our special guest Barry Stickins. Go ahead.
I did have a load of questions, but before I do, just remember you can join us at facebook.com/Men's Radio STN and join in the conversation. Barry, one thing I really wanted to ask about with you and Toby is, how did school work? Because obviously he can't see, so did he get Braille textbooks?
He had Braille. He had a one-to-one helper who was a Brailleist.
Who taught him how to read and write in Braille? Or?
Yeah, I mean, Toby learnt over the years. He initially learnt the Braille, where you have the 6 keys that you push down, and it weighs 6 ton, and you can hardly lift it off the table. But then he gradually developed, and they had to make the classes inclusive for Toby. Because if you've even got one person with a disability, they must have inclusion.
And it's
very important.
What does that look like? I wonder.
Well, Toby just joined in. He just joined in the classes. He did his homework, and he'd produce it in Braille, and his Braille teacher would be able to look at it and go, "Yeah, that's great, Toby."
So he would do everything in Braille?
Yeah, he did his exams, and the exams had to be inclusive. They had to be in Braille. They had to be... There were a few issues sometimes when in maths? I don't know. I think I did maths. And they used to get diagrams.
Yes.
And they wouldn't... And it would say, "Can you decipher this diagram?" And Toby would be like, "Well, I can't see that, can I? So I'm meant to do that." So he was quite witty about it. And we did have some issues where we had to address that. But everybody was brilliant. And they sort of brought it in. And he did primary, which was good. Then he went on to mainstream, secondary.
Yeah.
And he was at a place called Crown Woods. They had a VI unit. And there's quite a lot of kids there with visual impairment. So... But having somebody who's totally blind is a big challenge.
Yeah,
but they worked and they got it right and they helped him.
And then, so what about things like PE and football and stuff?
Yeah, Toby used to do judo. Used to quite enjoy that.
Can I ask a daft question? I'm going to ask a daft question here, because they always say, in the movies, if they've got a superhero, they go, well, he's blind, but all his other senses are incredibly intensified. And I have no idea if that's Hollywood garbage, or is there any grain of truth in that with Toby?
Hollywood.
I think that is, I don't think it's a myth. But I just think it's just something that people believe. All your hearing must be, you must be able to hear for 7 miles.
It makes us feel a bit better, doesn't it? Really?
You know?
I'm reeling from the fact that your son, Toby, is able to take all these... I mean, I was terrible at exams. I got into a terrible state of nerves until I calmed myself down. And then I was okay. But to do it I can't actually get my head around it at all.
Yeah.
At all.
Yeah. I mean,
how difficult was it for him to learn Braille?
Very quick.
Is it intuitive? I know nothing about it.
Toby can learn. I mean, Toby did a touch typing course and can type at 90 words a minute.
No way.
Yeah, he could sit on your laptop now, Russ, and type away like nobody's business, and it will be perfect. I'll get him to send you an email, and you'll see.
This is just. You see, this is why it's so important to have guests like this.
Is that on a QWERTY keyboard or is that on a Braille keyboard?
He's got
on a QWERTY keyboard.
Yeah, he's got laptops. He's got his Mac. He's got his Windows. He's got them both together like that in his studio, as we call it.
Has he been? Now he's 30. Has he been able to? And I have no idea, and I should know, and I don't. Has he been able to get a job, or he doesn't work?
No, Ross.
No.
That's one of the big issues. Toby ended up going to Royal National College for the Blind in Hereford,
right,
where he was doing music. Toby's very musical, and then he ended up going to Greenwich University, where he got a degree in business IT. But Toby's big thing is games and solving problems. So what happens now is he's latched onto all these companies all over the world, and they send him a game, like a computer game, and he'll check it out and go, "Oh, there's a bug there. That's not going to work." Don't ask me.
Hang on.
Don't ask me how.
So they're going to send, because this is a multi-million-pound business, obviously, or more. I think Red Dead Redemption cost $300 million to develop.
Yes,
was it 300 million?
Yep.
These are smaller developers.
Well.
I understand, but even so, if they send him, I wish you could walk me through it because I don't understand. It's just dazzling. That's
Nor
why.
do I. Well, in fact, one of the best ways. See, Toby plays the PlayStation.
Right. Yeah.
Totally blind.
Think about that for a second.
Wait a minute. He plays the PlayStation, but he's blind.
Yes. Now,
well,
if any of your listeners have ever heard of a game called Final Fantasy,
of course, yes,
right?
Yes.
It is the most complicated thing you could ever play. I look at it, and Toby goes, "Oh, can you do it?" And I go, "I don't know how to do it." So he will sit there, and on his little handheld device they use, he will go through all the menus.
But how?
I don't know. But he'll go, "Oh, I need to buy some of this," and he goes, and he goes, and he buys it.
I can attest to that.
Barry, I don't understand this. How is he able? This is like supernatural, super spooky. What? How?
I don't know.
Because it's a visual thing. I mean, you got obviously, they spend a lot of time on the sound and the voices and everything, but that's extraordinary.
But a guy who does lots of Final Fantasy stuff, they're all on YouTube and they play the games.
Of
Everybody
course,
watches.
yes. Oh, yeah.
And Toby latched onto a guy, a bloke called Burke Eisel. And Burke is he's massive in the games world.
Yeah.
And Burke is a film producer, director. He makes documentaries. He lives in Turkey, he's English. And so anyway, he got in touch and he said, "I can't believe what your son does. Can I come over?" So him and Toby, he come down to our house and he met with Toby and he made a film. And the film is called Gaming Through New Eyes. It's won awards all over.
It's on YouTube. It's on YouTube.
It's on YouTube.
It is on YouTube. Gaming Through New Eyes on YouTube.
It's had on all platforms now probably 7 to 8 million views.
Whoa.
Bravo.
And when we go, because Toby goes to the Albert Hall every year to listen to the music from Final Fantasy, because they have the composer and they do it all on stage and it's full of all these gamey people.
Right.
We go to a restaurant.
Yeah, it's a wonder you haven't run into James then.
Lurking.
But you know what?
At the back.
We were waiting outside and some people saw Toby and they come and they said, "Excuse me, are you Toby Ott?" And he went, "Yeah." They go, "You're the guy from Gaming Through New Eyes." And
they
recognised him, and it was really quite good. It's a good boost for Toby.
Of course.
Well, what a nice difference.
And it's a nice thing. But recently because he now uses, there's a Braille, it's basically like a Braille laptop. It's called a Touch.
Right.
And it's made by a company called Humanware. Basically it's an iPad. And you can do braille just by touching the screen, but there's no dots. It's just how you put your finger. Yeah, I know how you put. Russ is looking at me.
Everything you're saying is so extraordinary. It's like what. I'm kind of almost speechless, which is really handy for radio. But it's extraordinary, isn't it?
Yeah. But basically, Toby uses that, but he also uses the 6 keys, which are how you create braille, and it has a braille face. But recently, the company, because I had a lot of dealings with them when I was like chairman of the charity, and we used to supply them, just give them to kids. There you go, for some of them, and they developed a new one, and they asked Toby to be one of their testers for it, and he was over the moon. He was contacting them every day saying, "That's wrong, that's not right. You need to do this." And now it's out there. It's now.
Does he do the testing for? So obviously all video games now.
No. He does it for certain types.
But does he do it because they do like they offer a visually impaired like thing, don't they?
Yeah, I mean some of them now, because I mean I'm sure you're aware of audio description when you put on Sky now or BBC. They have audio description.
Yes.
Cinema. We go to cinema all the time because it's audio. Toby wears a little headset, and it'll be like if it was just describing us, it would say. There's 3 men sitting in a room. One of them sitting in the back with a white T-shirt, sitting with...
Which hasn't seen an iron.
I knew the moment you said white T-shirt.
It's a running gag for 12 weeks.
Yeah, and it would just describe us. So we go to the theatre. Yeah. We were at Warhorse the other week, and they do audio description. So...
I've got a really difficult question, and this is something which I don't even, not sure how to even couch the question in terms that make any sense. To be inside Toby's head, he's been blind since birth, born without eyes, so he's never seen. So the concept of something as simple as round or square or green or blue or anything like that is, I wouldn't understand what he in his mind, and I'm using my words carefully, sees, because obviously he has to pitch it somewhere, he has to imagine it somewhere, and I'm wondering how you imagine green or blue.
Right. For blind kids, you can buy pens. Green smells of apples, red smells of strawberries.
Did you know that, James?
I did.
So you equate a colour to a smell.
Smug kid. I had absolutely no idea. So
and
the
like
colour is a smell.
Toby always feels everything. Yeah. You know, we go on when we go to the theatre.
Yeah.
Like we went to see the Harry Potter Part 1 and 2.
Any good?
Oh, all I'll say is amazing. Do it in one day. It's amazing. It's two whole shows.
I don't think my backside would last.
Oh, it's the best. It's the best.
2 shows one day.
It's just fair, isn't it?
Keep the secret. That's the word at the end. Keep the secret.
Butler did it.
So we go, and you do a touch tour. So we go
a touch tour.
We go hour and a half before the show.
Yeah.
You go up on the stage. You meet the cast. Hagrid. Oh,
how does it? Hang on. How do you arrange this?
This is through a company. It's a company called Vocalise, who do audio describes cinema, theatre, museums, lots of things, and they're a company that I latched onto when I was doing all the charity work.
And for people who want to know, is that online or
it's
how do you
online,
get on Vocalise?
And if anybody's got a vision impairment, contact Vocalise, sign up, and you'll get their newsletter. And nearly every show, every now and again in London, like Hamilton is audio described on certain performances. So you go there, you collect the headset, you sit there, and the audio description is amazing. It knocks you out. We now love audio described TV because we'll be like tonight. We're going to watch Line of Duty,
right?
But when you have audio descript, you should try it, Russ. When it's on, they'll say something. You go, "What? I didn't see that."
Yeah.
Because they pick things out, and you go, "Oh, I didn't know that."
I often have the subtitles on because, especially for American stuff, because they mumble.
Yeah,
which drives me
I think the hardest
absolutely
problem
mad.
was when because audio description now is really running at a fast pace. It's phenomenal. And they've even got it on BA. You go on the plane, they have an audio described channel for films. And certain films.
Does it also say we're serving you up a sandwich that you should have bought in Pret?
That's right.
Why are you bothering to have this at 35,000 feet?
Right. It's all there, Russ. It's all there. It's out there for everybody now.
Do you feel like it's improved a lot? Because it's weird for me. Like you said, there was a unit in school. There was a visually impaired kid. It was all it was all there in place. Has that come along recently, or has it kind of always been very good?
There's a big improvement, shall we say? It's not there yet, but it's getting there.
But for me, it's like you say. You go to the cinema. You go to the theatre. They offer it. So I feel like it really
very much. I mean, one of the hardest things was when
video games?
Programs. Video games, it's getting there.
It's getting there, yeah.
The new Mortal Kombat fighting game that comes out soon has got an audio descriptive part. But, if I can just digress, if you don't mind.
Not at all.
Kelly and I would audio describe programs that weren't audioed.
Right.
And when Game of Thrones first started, Kelly used to sit there and go, right, Toes, they're running at each other, chopping each other's heads off. But you had certain scenes where there were things happening, and Kelly used to have to describe them. And it was
There's
quite
some horizontal refreshment going on.
That was exactly. I'm glad you said that, Russ.
Yeah.
But it's all about. And this is another area where you go back to support, because it's supporting these children and young adults. I mean, Toby's got a network of people. I mean, he was in the chat room the other night telling other blind people how to set up a game, and I'm like, that's good. Well done.
That's not good. That's amazing.
It is amazing. It is an amazing thing. You see, my late father, was legally blind towards the end, and he had, and I have forgotten the technical medical thing, but it was like looking to, if you had a poster and it came in a long tube, that was how his eyesight was. So he had terrible tunnel vision that got worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. It was horrendous. And he, even thinking about it, it's depressing. He never adapted to it, and it made him a very, very miserable guy, understandably. And then the other side of the coin is listening to what Toby has done, who was born blind, who has never seen, and has embraced life with such vigour, with your support. Right, you were in the police force as you're here, and I'm going to ask you these things. No. It's got no. I'm just curious. I'm just curious. Let's get away from young Toby. We'll come back to young Toby in a minute. By the way, please, if you want to join in the conversation, the telephone number is 0203 290 4411. I'll give it to you again. It's 0203 290-4411. We're on Facebook Live. What's the Facebook address thing?
Facebook.com/Men's Radio STN. Please join in the conversation.
Just join in, then you can be anonymous if you want, or whatever you want to do, and we will answer your questions straight away. So anything you want to ask Barry Stickins here about his son Toby. So you were a PC in the police force. Your boss was Cressida Dick, which is a bit of a coincidence. Amazing, isn't it? I've had this argument. It's got nothing to do with why you were here, but I'm just curious.
Okay.
Do you think, in the climate we live in today, how long were you a policeman for, by the way?
30 years.
30 years on the force, right. Okay, so you are well qualified for this. Do you think that policemen should be at least armed with tasers or not in today's climate? Yes.
I think the service should be armed.
Do you think the Bobby on the beach should be armed?
Yes.
What? You see, I've had this, especially on the BBC.
I worked in I wasn't an armed officer, but I worked in an armed environment for many years. And it's very difficult. But I feel now we've reached the point where the poor guy or girl who's walking round the corner and comes across an incident which they probably can more so. I've been gone for 2.5 years, and then I worked in a different world in the police, which wasn't regular policing. But I feel the danger now is phenomenal. And it protects the public. Not only the police officer, it protects the public, and that's the whole purpose of being a police officer.
You see, the thing is, forgive me, I know it's a complete digression, but it's something to do with, everything in Men's Radio Station to do with well-being. One of the things about well-being is you can walk down the street and not get knifed. I always thought that's a pretty handy thing to do. And we've debated this a lot on the shows that I do on the BBC as well. And, people going, no, we cannot arm the police, because that's the great thing about Great Britain, is the police walk around with a notebook and a pencil, as opposed to being tooled up like they are in everywhere else. Do you think it would be the thin edge of the wedge. In other words, the argument seems to go, well, if the police arm themselves, then the criminals can arm themselves. My argument is the criminals are already armed anyway.
They are. And I just feel that by arming the police, it's another deterrent.
Is it?
I think it is. I think if people were aware that that police car that pulls up, 9 out of 10 of them are not carrying a gun. If they knew that every single police officer had a gun, and when they come running out of that bank or whatever they've done, or they get stopped and they're carrying a gun, they might have second thoughts about what they do. But really, but it's a very difficult subject.
It's a very difficult subject. But do you not think that if everyone's got guns, then everyone's kind of shooting each other, right? And then that's how you have those incidents that happen in America.
I know.
That's what I think.
It's very. I don't think there's a right or a wrong answer.
Yeah.
It's a very hard subject.
We've debated it so long. We've never talked about it here on Men's Radio Station, but it is part of well-being because it's part of. I don't even know what the word means. Society. I don't understand the word society. I think it's just a made-up kind of fiction because we're just people trying to rub along and get on with our lives. But the argument, people always phone in on the beam, and they're very, very, very against it because they feel. Is it true though? This is what I was told. The only reason there isn't more gun crime in Britain is they've got the guns, they can't get the ammunition. The guns are not in short supply. They can't actually get the bullets.
To be honest, I wouldn't know that one. That's something that I really...
So you had 30 years on the force. I know that's not what you came in to talk about, but frankly, to have a policeman with 30 years' experience, with a very rounded view of the world, which you have, Barry. So... we're in an I use the word epidemic. It's a bit cliche of this knife crime, carrying knives. It seems to have exploded in the last 5 years, 10 years.
It's very
probably
sad.
5 years. What could possibly be done?
Education.
And where would that start?
Schools.
Not at home.
And at home. It's a very long process, but the biggest problem is if somebody's going to carry a knife, they're going to carry it. That's the problem. If somebody decides they want to carry a knife because where they live, if they cross the road onto the wrong postcode, the guys over there have got knives, so if I haven't got a knife, what am I supposed to do? It's a horrible.
But it's something that was it was very alien to you used to think about it when you used to see the films from the 50s, and they'd have the motorbike gangs, and some kid sort of like look-alike Marlon Brando would get out a flick knife. Go,
so it's always been there.
It has, but it hasn't been like this.
But now it's if you think back to when we were young, and if me and you were going to have a fight, we'd stand there and we'd have fisticuffs and everything, and I'd have a bloody nose and you'd have a bloody nose, and that would be it. But now, I mean, I watched about 24 Hours in Police Custody the other night. It's terrifying because some kid had a row with another kid. They just went and they killed him, and they just stabbed him over a row in the street. You just think, wow.
But it is over nothing.
It is over nothing, isn't it?
Is it in your experience, were you dealing with gangs, or were you dealing with just this macho nonsense?
I worked in an environment where we dealt with gangs. I worked on Trident, which was all the gun and knife crime.
Operation Trident. Yes,
I worked on that for a few years, and that was all. It's gangs.
I do have a bit of a funny story about the old knife situation. So I used to work as a chef in a restaurant, and when you work as a chef, you obviously you have to buy your own knives. So one day we finished work, it's quite late, we've sort of stayed in the restaurant and we've had a few drinks amongst us kind of thing, so then we've all kind of gone our own ways, and a friend of mine, he decided this one time he was going to take all his knives home with him. So he's got this big old, I can't it's a, you've got like a whole sort of kit of like these massive, great big chef's knives, really sharp things, and he's in plain clothes. So he's walking home, and we kind of gone our separate ways, and he gets stopped. And he's got all these knives on him, but he gets stopped by the police officers, and they're like, "What are you doing with all these knives on you?" He's like, "No, I'm a chef." They're like, "We've heard this one before." And it's like, no, he's gone, "Hang on a minute." And he calls me, and he goes, "Can you just come and just clarify that I'm not a criminal?
I'm a chef.
I'm a chef, yeah." And it was just funny, but I feel like that that whole situation has come about though because it's become such an epidemic.
Yeah.
And I want to know, like, would something like that have happened? Like, say when you were doing it, when you were on the beat, would you have believed him if he said, "Oh, I'm a chef"?
I think it depends on the person and how they come across, and you listen. And if it's reasonable, and if you've got the opportunity to verify why they're carrying something, obviously now if you carry a knife, it's a different kettle of fish. I just feel that nobody should be carrying a knife.
It's against the law, isn't it? Or something?
It is, yeah.
To have a knife of a certain size on it?
It is.
It is against
I mean, everything's changed since I was in, so I mean, I'm not 100% certain of what goes on because I've been gone.
Because I remember them saying that, because obviously I went and rescued my friend and went, no, honest to God.
Yeah, he's a chef.
He's a chef. We've just
we'll cook you dinner.
Yeah, it's like, we'll make you food, we promise. And they said to us, they said, well, look, boys, you know you can't have knives on you. There's a new law about sort of thing. Now, I wonder, has that done anything, do you think, to improve knife crime? I mean, it didn't stop my buddy from leaving the restaurant with all his knives.
No, I mean, at the end of it, you have, obviously, chefs must carry their knives around if they're going from job to job or whoever's doing things, but it's the people who carry these.
Yeah, I mean, you see the Barry? This is what get me. They've got the zombie knives. And you think, where the hell are you buying that? No one.
I know.
There is no legitimate reason whatsoever to buy that, and no legitimate reason to carry it.
No,
and when you see people on a train platform suddenly wielding one of those things, I'm pretty hardcore. I'd just shoot them. I mean, if that was the option, I'd just shoot them and put them down. That was it. No, I know it's very hardcore. But why? That could be my kids standing there. It could be,
I mean, that's one of the things in a way. If you go back, like say with Toby, or any blind, blind kids, they're oblivious to this. They're not in that world where they see it. So, to them, that's an alien world. But they could be the victim of it.
Well, precisely.
And that's always the worry, isn't it?
It is the worry. And is it, when you were 30 years as a policeman, is this, apart from the sort of macho nonsense, I'm carrying a knife, therefore I'm really important, they keep trying to say, well, it's all about drugs. In other words, gangs and drugs. And I'm not entirely convinced. It's part of the problem, undoubtedly.
I think there's a lot of elements. Social standing, where you live, how you've been dealt with. I think there's lots. Drugs is an issue, obviously. And social and group pressure is another one.
I think that's a massive one.
I think that's a big one.
A few of my friends I know have been caught up in bad things, and it was just because they were
very hard. It's very, very, very difficult. But the person who gets the solution is going to be a very
But no one seems to be able absolutely no one seems to be able to come up with a solution. You were working on Operation Trident, so you must have had, I mean, I'm not asking you to reveal them, obviously, but you must have had loads of groups sitting around thinking, right, should we try this? Should we try that? There must have been a lot of it.
I think there's lots of groups still doing that. Still trying to develop ideas of how they stop this. And I don't know what the answer is.
But you know what? Just briefly, because I got to head up to the break. But what I always argue is that my dad would always say, one for the road. This was how it was, one for the road, and you'd think nothing of it. And so it's taken 2 generations, so my kids would never drink and drive. They just wouldn't. It would be absolutely alien to them. Okay, I've had to learn, but for them, it's in their DNA. They wouldn't dream. And I think it's like smoking is bad for you. That's taken a couple of generations. And I'm wondering if it might take, it could take another 20 years, 30 years before it's like, carry a knife? What on earth are you talking about?
Why are you doing that? Yeah.
Why are you doing that? Barry Stickins, if we want to know more about you, how do all our listeners get hold of you, and how do they get the support that you could possibly help?
I'm just in the process, Russ, of starting a new support group called BAM.
BAM?
BAAM. It's bilateral, anophtalmia, and me.
Huh? Clever.
BAM. Yeah. Literally started a month ago.
Okay.
It's purely for families and those who are affected who have no eyes, just for them.
Yes.
Because the only people who really understand are the people who've got the family or the person who's got it. So I decided over the years, because of all the previous work I've done with other conditions, and that was just fantastic. I mean, I love the fact if one person comes up to you and they just go, "Thank you, job done."
Absolutely, job done.
Job is done. So
now
we are changing.
So there's nowhere they can get hold of you right now, or is it in the interim?
I've got I've got a website which is just under development. It should be coming soon.
Well, would you do us a huge favour on Men's Radio Station? When everything is up and running, I want you to contact me, and then we can put it up on our website, which we would love to do.
Yeah.
And
I've got a new email address for the charity. If anybody's interested in the support group, all it is, it's very simple. It's admin at bam.org.uk. And those emails will get through to me. So anybody out there who knows anybody who's got a child who's been born without eyes and they're lost and they want help and they want to meet people and they just want to sit down and chat, maybe have a hug and a cry, because I've done a lot of that over the years.
I bet.
Get in touch.
Bless you.
We're there.
You've been listening to Barry Stickins, who I've been proud to know for a very long time, and telling the story of his extraordinary son, Toby. Send him our love.
I will.
Please
He'll
do.
probably shout, Ross.
Oh, he'll shout. He could go away, you say. All right. I'm Russ Kane. You're listening to Men's Radio Station, and we'll be back in just a mo. Thank you so much, Barry.
Thank you, Ross.
You're listening
Cheers,
to
Russ.
Russ Kane on
Men's Radio Station, where men really talk.
Hello, I'm Lawrence Davis. I'm the proud owner of South Cigars in Mayfair and Knightsbridge. For the past 60 years, we've been providing the world's best Cuban cigars. When it comes to cigars, there's no other than South Cigars from Mayfair and Knightsbridge. We at Southters would like to wish Men's Radio Station every support in their task for helping men's emotional and mental well-being. Check them out. Men's Radio Station, where men really talk.
Your call is important to us. You are now number 15 in a queue.
At Profile Insurance Services, we treat people as individuals. You'll speak to a real person, not a call centre. We're fast, small, independent, and have a superb team of insurance specialists. And they're really nice too. Advice is totally free and we cover everything. Call 0208 931 3306. Listeners to Men's Radio Station won't pay a penny for admin fees. That's 0208 931 3306. With Profile Insurance Services, you're covered.
Let me tell you about Jermyn Street Theatre. We are the smallest theatre in the West End, only 70 seats. We are a registered charity and not grant-aided, run by a small team of volunteers and trustees. Jermyn Street Theatre is a hidden gem. It combines the comfort and convenience of the West End with the intimacy of a studio. Every seat has a perfect view of the stage, and even a whisper is audible. This is a secret theatre in the heart of the West End, once found, never forgotten.
Slick 50 Barbershop is in West Cliff-on-Sea, Essex. Elaine, specialist in retro haircuts, has been trading since 1987. Music and lifestyle are her inspiration. You can also purchase merchandise and Toot Sweet pomade. The shop is open Tuesday, Thursday, Friday and Saturday. Please call 01702 390 916 to book your haircut. Visit barbershoprockabilly.co.uk, Slick 50 Barbershop on Instagram. Gracias.
Not ready for making tax digital? Struggling to keep up with changes? Or do you simply need a friendly and reliable face to handle your accounting needs? With over 20 years of experience, BBK Partnership in 5 London areas provide personal advice, and all our partners are readily available in person and by phone at times that suit you. Give BBK a call today, 0208 216 2520, or visit our website, bbkca.com.
You're listening to Men's Radio Station, where men really talk.
I'm Russ Kane. This is Men's Radio Station, coming at you 100% live from the very centre of London, here in Covent Garden. Eliza Doolittle doing her best outside, rocking the desk, as always, the boy wonder producer. That is, wait for the dance, James Blake. Yeah, there we go.
Every time.
Marvellous. That's great. If you want to join in the conversation, and we'd love you to do so, and if you want to be anonymous, it's not a problem. 0203 290 4411. Play the jingle. Go on, knock yourself out.
Jingle.
Knock yourself out, James. Come on.
Do you know, we have two versions. Play the
I
second
don't mind which. They're both very good.
0203 290 4411.
And And in the south of France, David Mindel is just smiling at his brilliant creation. I use the word brilliant in its widest connotation. Now, we're also on Facebook Live, which means that you can interact with us immediately and you will get answers straight away. And it's Facebook, what is it? I can let the kids do it. Go on.
Facebook.com/Men's Radio STN. Just pop your question in the comments box and we will read it out live on air, and we'd love you to join us.
Yeah, it's nice because Gerald Ratner's watching.
Gerald Ratner.
The Gerald Ratner.
Sambo
Who's a friend of mine.
He's a friend
of mine. And Larry Viner. So welcome along, gentlemen. Welcome. Now, next guest, by the way, it's lovely because our previous guest is still with us. And you can see him. If you're watching, you can see. You can just see him. There he is. Right, we are joined now. I was just really interested by the name of the book, so it just kind of caught my attention. I thought, let's get this guy in. Dave Dawson. Dave, welcome.
It's a pleasure. Lovely to be here.
It's very nice of you to come, especially on a Sunday. Thank you.
All the way from Salisbury.
You come in from Salisbury.
Yeah, I've come to see
Was it tricky when they were moving Stonehenge because the clocks went forward, so they have to move all the stones?
I wonder why there were so many people with bad backs this morning.
Yeah, that's it. It's a pig, isn't it? It just takes forever. And then they got, in the summer, the winter, they got to push all the stones back to where they originally were.
At night as well, so the tourists don't get, because you can't shout. I didn't know they hadn't finished Stonehenge. I thought it was a work in progress still.
Well, it is, but it's the council. It's slow. It's funding, mate. It's Brexit. It's funding.
Right. Yeah,
I can't believe I said the B word. I'm going to wash my mouth out with soap and water now. Tell us all about yourself. You've got a book, which I just loved the title of. Wait a minute. I can put my glasses on. I can see what I'm doing. Dear Mr. Popstar.
Yes.
Absolutely love the title of the book straight away. So I was hooked. Right. What's that all about?
Okay. It was a mistake, as all good ideas are.
Basically, it's like starting a radio station, if I may say so. You think, that's a good idea. And then you wake up in the middle of the night going,
what have we done? What have we done?
Right, so there's your book.
It's, I'm a professional musician by trade. I work in care homes.
I want to talk to you about that.
Yeah,
because my mum was in one for so long, so go on.
And that's my life. I'm obsessed by music, like you are, James, aren't you? You're obsessed with music.
I love music. When we spoke, we had a great chat about music, didn't we?
I was a bit sad that day because Scott Walker had just died, and he was my idol. Yeah, do you remember? I was a bit down on Monday. Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you something.
Well. That's terrible as well. And Mark Hollis, Talk. Yeah.
You see, it's weird. If you're not into it, it goes straight over your head. So,
but that's relevant.
That is relevant. So I was not a big Prodigy fan. So when Keith, I'm sad that anyone would take their own life. That's awful because it's something we deal with a lot on Men's Radio Station. But it's like, it sounds dreadful, but I'm being honest here. It didn't affect me because I thought, well, I actually don't know. I know one song, Firestarter. I don't know anything else. And Talk. I think I can only remember one song. That's it. But Scott Walker, I was such a huge fan. I called my eldest son Scott. Because I thought he was the coolest guy on the planet, and I have to say,
and he followed his own path.
My guy hasn't really kind of. Yeah, he was an amazing musician. Anyway, we won't talk about that.
So, but that's relevant. What you've touched on something that's relevant there, because my dad isn't a professional musician. My dad knows literally nothing about music. So, whereas I would play to him "Painted Black" by the Rolling Stones, and I'd be going, "Well, this is the same pen that bought us "Sympathy for the Devil." This is angst. My dad would go, "Hold on." He sees a red door, he wants to paint it black. Now, if he doesn't have enough undercoat on there, that door's going to turn out purple. Your Uncle Len tried that, and then he had to get people, and I'd play him Duran Duran, and he'd go, or Living in a Box, and he'd go, he's a pop star, he's living in a box. What's wrong with his accountant? Has he got a dodgy? Or you go Duran Duran. I'm playing Duran Duran. And go hungry like the wolf. He goes, well, what about peckish like the panda? What about famished like the ferret? It's not. What about ravenous like the raven? And because
it's a little bit literal, your dad.
But the thing is, because my dad has no knowledge of music, he would come at records
from a different angle
that you or I wouldn't do because we love our stuff. So. Basically, I thought this was so funny that I would build letters around what he told me. I'd play him my favourite records, and he'd say, "Who's this?" I said, "It doesn't matter if it's the Stranglers, it doesn't matter if it's a bloke in his shed. What do you make of it? I'll write it down and turn it into a letter." And I had this website, built with Dad, where we just put these letters, they were hanging in cyberspace, thinking that was funny enough. And then we built this Facebook army, which I'm sure you're aware of looking at our page. We've got loads and loads of fans. And after a couple of years of these things hanging in cyberspace, somebody said, you know that pop star you wrote to? I cut his lawn. So we were actually. So do you want to reply to that? So we got through the back door of the industry because we originally started to send these things to management. That went well. So we actually procured replies from the artists directly through the back door of the industry, through their barbers or through their drum techs or through the roadies. And we got to a point where after 7 years, we said, we've got a book's worth here.
Yeah.
And so we published the first book through crowdfunding. We raised £18,000. That brought to the attention of Unbound.
Oh, I know Unbound.
They're amazing. And that's how we were able to put this second book out, Dear Mr. Popstar, which came out...
That's a serious old book.
Yeah, which came out...
That is serious...
Yeah.
We'll see.
And that's it. So it's all a bit of fun.
Wait a minute. Have you noticed this? I get the book. This is the first time Boy Wonder producer has actually gone off his backside and moved.
I'll take that as a
because
compliment.
he thinks he's going to get the book.
Oh, I see.
You see, it's like feeding cats. It's not...
He's got the paws now, look.
He's got the pathetic excuse of, I'm going to show this to the world. This is great. This
looks so cool.
Great.
It's brilliantly done, yeah. I don't mean from us, I mean just the way it's presented, because Unbound did the editing. And we're very, very, very pleased with it. But
it looks terrific.
I know. And they're all
they're
all in on the joke, James. So we don't sort of write to Nick Kershaw and say,
I'm going to pass it to our previous guest, Mr. Barry Stickett. So you can just wait, James Blake.
We prime all of the artists before. It's just a bit of fun, okay? So we're going to write you a silly letter, and then.
You reply.
Yeah. There's no pretensive. Like they're all in on the joke. They're all primed. And then
how do we get the book? On Amazon?
It's on. It's everywhere because we're with Unbound.
Yeah.
We've got a trade edition through Penguin, so it's worldwide.
Beautifully made book, by the way. He said with his book coming out in about 2 weeks.
Love.
Oh, I saw about that.
What, the cover? The whole thing.
Love the cover. It just catches your eye. It's just like.
Well, they wanted to. It was toyed around that we'd have our own pictures on the cover, but we said no. If you make it a cartoon, it means that it's the person's got to the readers. I want the reader to imagine what these demented guys look like, because the letters are ridiculous, And we did it under a pen name, because we said, look, if we do it under our own names, we've got to stop at a certain point. But if you're doing it under a pen name with a mask on, you can say, right, that's really silly, but we've got a pen name, so we can just drive it right to the most silly level, The
interesting thing is, if you're sitting at home, you're thinking, wait a minute. Normally Russ and the gang are talking about depression or suicide or mental illness or all of these, relationship issues. Why have we got something that's A, amusing, and B, doesn't seem to be on topic? When we set this up, Howard Jameson and myself with the gang, it was all about well-being. So it's not just health, it is well-being. And I don't know if you'd agree, Barry, but I know your answer, I'll come on to you in a sec, Dave, is that music forms a huge part of many people's lives and adds to their well-being. That's why it fits, to me, under the umbrella,
Would you mind if I just sort of jumped in on
I would be delighted. Please feel
music.
free.
Yeah.
And blind people.
Yeah.
Huge. Music therapy. My Toby, from the age of 2, did music therapy with through the local authority and school, and it was just brilliant. And you had all these kids there who were blind, banging drums, playing music, but they learnt rhythm. And from that, because my son's got perfect pitch, so he ended up, he could just listen to something and go, I'll play that.
Yeah. And he plays it on the keyboard.
And he can play it on the keyboard. Yeah.
Well, that ties in with my day job, because the reason why I could devote so much time to getting this done is because my day job is I perform professionally in care homes.
Really?
That's all I do. Yeah. And that's after 25 years in the clubs.
And I'm going to ask you
something.
First of all, let's just go back to Toby just for a second. I really want to talk about the care home thing. It's something very, very close to my heart. Yeah, so he must feel the music on a deeper, I'm thinking on a deeper level, because Do you think
he probably does? But Toby loves music.
Yeah.
You know,
He always. I seem to recall he always did.
Yeah, he always used to press the wrong button in the studio with Chris, but apart from that was fine. But no, I mean, he does.
He was so. The thing was, Barry, he was so popular at Capitol.
It's really nice. That's nice to hear.
But you know that we always, and I still see Chris and all of the Capitol gang a lot. I mean, you know, what you heard is what you got. We were actually friends. We wasn't just faking it.
Yeah.
Not like James and me. I mean, God, if I see him on the street, I'd dive into a doorway. So, oh, God, it's James. But that was genuine. Now, care homes. Let me ask you this. Many people in the entertainment industry would say, "No, don't take offence." This is what they're saying, but you know, I always try to keep it very honest here in the studio. They would say, "Geez, if you're doing care homes, give up, matey. Go and work in a bank or go and stack shelves. It can't get any worse." Clearly, you love it.
I thought the same thing. Because I was performing weddings, I was earning a good wage doing weddings, clubs, working men's clubs.
As a
singer, guitar player.
Right.
I do crooning and covers. You know, to be working professionally as a musician at that rung of the ladder, you need to be able to do everything: country, western, crooning, a lot. And you're right. I was exactly the same attitude because somebody said to me, "Listen, we've seen you in such and such a club. Come and do our care home." And I thought, "Oh, no, that's a step down." And there's a stigmatism attached to it. And I thought, I'll probably do that when I get to 60. Yeah, I've got a few years in me as a professional. Yeah. And then I did the first one. I thought, "Oh my God, this is where I should be."
What was it about? And the reason I say that is, I'll just show my hand here, is that my mum, because of her dementia, she died last March, but because of her dementia was in a care home for, 15-16 years.
Do you want me asking where? Because
every flat.
I might have performed for her.
You probably did, mostly around North London, but of course, as you know, it's so brutally expensive and everything like that. I have to keep moving, but and I'd see the entertainers coming in, and when condition wasn't so bad that it was irrelevant, I could see the enjoyment on the face of all the people who were the residents. I never call them patients; they're the residents of the care home, and it meant a lot. But I always was so struck, and even thinking about it, I get quite emotional actually, of the enthusiasm and the care, no pun intended, that each entertainer would put into it. There was no question that they were doing them a favour, or what the hell am I doing here, and oh my God, my life's a disaster. No. You could see they wanted to be there, and they were enjoying entertaining the residents, who in their own way were enjoying it with varying degrees. But what do you get out of it?
Well, the first one I did, because before that, when you're working in a big club, or it's a stage, isn't there?
Yeah.
And when you're working with residents, you've got a direct, they're as close as you are, you've got a direct engagement.
Because they'll kind of put the chairs around, won't they, in the lounge area or something
and
like that.
See, another misconception, people say, well, they can't go very far because, they're stuck in the lounge. If they don't like you, they'll just ask, they'll ask to be moved, okay? So you get a direct engagement. Okay, and music's like a time machine. Okay,
totally.
Okay, so you can do a certain song, and seriously, without being detrimental, you can start a gig and the residents just sitting there like that, and then suddenly it's like starting a car from cold. Okay, so you can see that number's got that lady. That's taken her back to when she got married. Or whatever, and then, the other thing they'll do is I say, I don't want to sing, because I pass the mics around. I make sure that I engage them personally. I make sure I've got their names, and they do become friends. It's not a cliche, okay? So when I see them next time, I say, all right, Rob, I've got your Tipperary song coming up, and they'll say, no, I don't want to sing, and then by the end you can't get the mic off them.
They love it.
You can't get it off them. So so I mix it up. So the other thing I'm finding now is that we make the joke that, like, when we're in care homes, they'll be playing the Prodigy. Okay, I'm already finding that it's the 70s. They're getting into. They're asking for Bowie. They're asking for T-Rex. They're asking.
Are
for
you kidding me?
I'm not kidding you at all. Because
my God!
The other thing is
me now.
The thing that my dad says to me. My dad said to me, which is really relevant. He said to me, Dave, I didn't stop listening to music when I was 30 years old. So we're still aware of the stuff that's 40, 50 years old. So we're
it's
getting to the
interesting
point
because
now.
normally you get things like "You Made Me Love You." You know, you made
I
me
do
love-
that, yeah.
But there's
Yeah.
some really old. They're classics, and
Underneath the
they'll
Arches.
sing underneath all the stuff which is kind of just pre-war and just post-war. Certainly a lot of pre-war stuff. And I suppose it never ever occurred to me what a blinding thought that is. And of course, as that generation moves on, as my parents have, and hello, we're the next. We're not going to be wanting Bud Flanagan and Brenda Lee. We're going to be wanting. Can you do some Stone stuff? You got any Springsteen?
Yeah.
Can you play the whole of Tommy while you're here? By the way.
Yeah. That's exactly it. That's exactly it. So,
it was funny. You sent me that video of you performing in the care home, and I was like, I know all these songs, and they're all like fairly modern songs. So it is funny how like they all just come together like that.
Yeah, it's like Frank. I learn as well because they say, "You got any Frankie Ifen?" I go, "Who's that?" And then I go home and you play it. So I remember you. Think, that's a blinding, brilliant song, and so. I get educated as well in music, and so, but you're tending to find that even though you do Mother Kelly's Doorstep and all that lot, you are getting people that are entering the homes in the sort of 70s now, and they want 50s and 60s, and they want Bobby Darin, and
Don't you find that music just brings everybody together?
Well, I found that even in the clubs. I found myself in situations when I was working in the East End where I'd be sitting around a table and you'd say, if it wasn't for the fact I've just done an hour of that Monroe and Sinatra, there is no way at all I'd be connecting with these 5 people around this table. It's a great leveller and it's universal, and you don't need to know about any other part of their life, and that it works in the care homes as well, where it's this unifying. I hate to be a hippie. It's like this unifying force.
It's not a hippie thing at all. It's true. There's nothing hippie about it.
And it just levels
But
you.
it goes
and
across all ages. Yeah. Because we used to organise talent shows for all the kids at our events. Some of them told jokes, but the majority would sing.
Yeah.
And we had Jodie Prenger. And did the Nancy thing and won all that.
Yes,
and
yes.
as soon as she won that, I just approached her. Said, "Do you fancy being a patron?" And she just went, "Yes." And she was brilliant. And she used to come to the talent shows with all the kids and all the singing and everything. It just brings people together. And blind kids love music. They love music. It's it just inspires them.
That's interesting because where I live now in Wiltshire, there's a home. I can't go into details because of confidentiality, obviously. There's a couple of homes I do where they're for younger people with head injuries, and for that I do tailor the set. They're getting the Jam and they're getting Blur and they're getting Oasis, but it's unifying to them too, and it's just this. It's very hard to explain, but there's nothing more rewarding than walking out of after an hour thinking everyone's had a great, not just me. Everyone's happy. And also the activities people that put these things together, they're the unsung heroes.
Totally. Oh my God.
They run these people ragged.
If you're lucky enough never to have had a relative in a care home, if you've dodged that bullet, you won't appreciate the work that goes on there. Yeah. I had 16 years of it, and it's heartbreaking and inspiring simultaneously because the staff, and I know the newspapers of course only pick up the horrible stories, they never pick up the wonderful stories. When Mum died, quite a lot of the staff wanted to come. They just adored her. They have the patience beyond of a saint because dementia and Alzheimer's can make you very aggressive. My mother had it to a degree, but other people there, the nurse would be there, and suddenly she'd go start swearing and throw a whole glass of orange juice for no reason at all all over them, and you think, wow, and no reaction, no anger. It's an amazing thing to see. So with Dave, what Dave is talking about, the entertainment, when you see it, it's an amazing thing because people who are often quite inanimate and they suddenly hear a song, and as you've already alluded to in our conversation here, and Barry's saying the same thing with the blind community, it's a trigger. It takes them back to, especially the older people, it takes them back to a certain period in their life, and they're transported back there. And for the 3.5 minutes of that song, they're there again, and maybe they're in their 20s again in their head, and you just see physically on their faces the change. It's and it's an enormous thing. So whereas people are very sniffy, and I get it, you know, if you're earning £20,000 a gig and you go, well, this guy works in a care home, jeez, give it up. You don't get it. You don't see the effect that it has, and that ripple effect. You know, you're making people happy, and is there a better thing to do in life than making people happy? It's I feel very strongly about it. You know,
you learn things as well in that, you know. Somebody will say, I want this song, and you say, why do you want that song? And it turns out they open their history up. Yeah. You know, I spoke to I watched it home in Swindon a few years ago. It turns out a guy there was a tail gunner in the Second World War. And that's when you're going, if it wasn't for the likes of you guys, we wouldn't even be sitting here today, you know. And I went to another home where somebody worked with Turing. Just last week I played a home
with Alan Turing.
Yeah. And she worked on the Nibico, and it takes, and they're very humble about it. It might take you 2 or 3 visits of going to that home when I open up, and sometimes what did you just say? You know, so that's just us in 20, 30 years perhaps. You know, it's just
I would rather get hit by a truck, and I mean that. I'm not saying that lightly. I never want my kids to go through, because I don't have any siblings, I don't want my kids to see me like I had the last 16 years. I really don't. I'd rather walk out today and get hit by a truck than have that as my future. I mean that. I couldn't bear it. It was awful. Absolutely horrendous. It was absolutely horrendous. So it's something I feel sorry. Sorry, Barry, you were saying.
I was going to say, you remember earlier when we were talking, Russ, and I said that if one person, you've achieved something with one person, or you get one thank you, and you've dealt with thousands of people. You know, I've dealt with hundreds of blind kids and their families. I never want to thank you. Never wanted to thank you. Nor did any of the team I work with. We didn't want to thank you. But if one person says it, you've achieved your goal.
Well, I got a bit emotional on Friday because I did a gig in Wiltshire, and this guy at the end, we'd had a lovely hour, and he said to me, "You're wasted here." I said, "No, this is where I choose to be." You know, and it's because I had 25 years in the clubs. I'm so appreciative I got that apprenticeship of working in someone that I worked in dives. I did, but I needed that grafting, because that was my apprenticeship to be able to work in what I'm doing now. And I honestly, my wife would confirm this, I get phone calls now from people saying, "Can you come and do this wedding for me?" And the money, it'd take me 5 gigs to earn what I'd earn in that 2 hours. But I'd say, no, I'm flattered you're asking.
You just don't want to do it anymore?
No. I'm just happy to work in care homes. That's all I do. I reject everything else.
That's just extraordinary.
I know. But also it gives me more... The other thing is I get the weekends to myself, because it's generally, you know, and I've got my evenings back as well. So it's not all, you know, But it's
job satisfaction, isn't it? You're doing what you love.
But what Russ said at the beginning is absolutely right. The first one I got offered, I thought, well, this is a step down. And they kept on asking me, so I thought, all right, I'll do it just because they keep asking. And then I thought, oh, this is where I should have been 2 or 3 years ago. Because I come out of doing the pubs in about 2012, 13-ish, and I could start to see the industry was declining in the pubs for entertainers. And, of course, I've got a shoe in now because I've been doing this for so long, but a lot of entertainers are trying to get into the care home industry now, because a lot of the other work's drying up.
Really?
Yeah. But I really, honestly, wouldn't do anything else now.
You know, that's the great thing about Men's Radio Station. You think, well, it's going to go this way, it's going to go that way, and then suddenly this whole kind of emotional deluge comes out, and it's that's why I love doing what I do here. Right, let's take a short break, and we will continue our conversation with Dave and Barry in just a moment.
You're listening to Russ Kane on
Men's Radio Station, where men really talk.
Hello, I'm Lawrence Davis. I'm the proud owner of South Cigars in Mayfair and Knightsbridge. For the past 60 years, we've been providing the world's best Cuban cigars. When it comes to cigars, there's no other than Souters Cigars from Mayfair and Knightsbridge. We at Souters would like to wish Men's Radio Station every support in their task for helping men's emotional and mental well-being. Check them out. Men's Radio Station, where men really talk.
Your call is important to us. You are now number 15 in a queue.
At Profile Insurance Services, we treat people as individuals. You'll speak to a real person, not a call centre. We're fast, small, independent, and have a superb team of insurance specialists. And they're really nice too. Advice is totally free and we cover everything. Call 0208 931 3306. Listeners to Men's Radio Station won't pay a penny for admin fees. That's 0208 931 3306. With Profile Insurance Services, you're covered.
Let me tell you about Jermyn Street Theatre. We are the smallest theatre in the West End, only 70 seats. We are a registered charity and not grant-aided, run by a small team of volunteers and trustees. Jermyn Street Theatre is a hidden gem. It combines the comfort and convenience of the West End with the intimacy of a studio. Every seat has a perfect view of the stage, and even a whisper is audible. This is a secret theatre in the heart of the West End, once found, never forgotten.
Slick 50 Barbershop is in Westcliff-on-Sea, Essex. Elaine, specialist in retro haircuts, has been trading since 1987. Music and lifestyle are her inspiration. You can also purchase merchandise and Toot Sweet Pomade. The shop is open Tuesday, Thursday, Friday and Saturday. Please call 01702 390 916 to book your haircut. Visit barbershoprockabilly.co.uk, Slick 50 Barbershop on Instagram. Gracias.
Not ready for making tax digital? Struggling to keep up with changes? Or do you simply need a friendly and reliable face to handle your accounting needs? With over 20 years of experience, BBK Partnership in 5 London areas provide personal advice, and all our partners are readily available in person and by phone at times that suit you. Give BBK a call today, 0208 216 2520, or visit our website, bbkca.com.
You're listening to Men's Radio Station, where men really talk.
I think today's been exemplary about talking about where men really talk. My special guest is Dave Dawson, and still with us is Barry Stickinson. If you listen to Barry's chat with me, it's amazing. And I thought, well, that's got to be the high point. And then I thought a little bit of light relief. But now that Dave Dawson's actually talking about what he does, I've actually got more emotional listening to you. Isn't this a weird? But it's the triggers, because we've had so many guests. This is week. What is it, James? Week 12.
13.
Week 13. Week 13, is it? Yes. Okay, all right, fine. Lucky I'm not superstitious. And of course, talking about care homes immediately triggers back my mum. Now I'm all like emotional and everything like that, because it was a huge part. I'm not saying my mum was a huge part of my life, obviously, but her illness and everything, and therefore I was plunged into that world for many, about 16 years. So, listening to you, of course, immediately I'm seeing it. I'm immediately there. I'm thrown back to those times. Do you do London gigs, by the way? You don't.
I've just moved to Salisbury. Before that I lived in Ruislip. That's where my dad lives.
Oh right.
So,
I know the Lido. That's
yeah, they're still there. So my circuit was like North London, but I used to go to Surrey, Essex.
Did you ever do Sunrise?
Yes, I did Sunrise in Elstree.
That's it. Mum was there for a while.
Elstree, and I did the one in Chorley Wood.
No, I didn't use all that.
And there's one near
Muswell Hill. Did you ever do one in Muswell Hill?
No, I didn't do the one.
It's another name.
Cromwell Lodge in Romford.
No, never did.
Let's drag up everywhere where our relatives.
But I did.
Languish.
When I started, I used to do the synagogues as well. When I first started, and I got my first backhanded compliment in a synagogue. I played it when I was about 25. I did a Rat Pack show, and it was at Jack's Club, and it was a Wednesday afternoon, because I used to have the entertainers coming in the afternoon. And at the end, this bloke came up to me and goes, "I must tell you, David, that was of a perfectly acceptable standard for a weekday." So,
now, important question for you, Dave Dawson. Also, I'm going to come back to your book in a bit because it's making me laugh just looking at the cover. Best British male vocalist of all time, Matt Monro.
Of course.
Thank you. There we go.
Matt Monro, really?
Now, oh yeah, absolutely.
Out of all the greats, Phil.
The best.
The best, the greatest. The greatest timing, the greatest tone, the greatest phrasing. If he'd looked... Let me ask you this, because again, it's all about well-being, so what makes you happy and everything like that. If he was if he had been a really handsome guy, he would have been a global superstar, don't you think?
Well,
I'm not being rude. He wasn't an ugly guy.
I'm picking my words here because I know a story about Mark Monro, and let's just say that he was offered a gratuity by Frank Sinatra. I know this for a fact. He was offered a gratuity in about 1965-66. He was given a bit of money on the condition that he never sang in Las Vegas.
Really?
Yeah, because Frank Sinatra was he didn't want to. Yeah, if you listen to a song like "Come Back to Me," you know that song, the diction in it, Sinatra wouldn't be able to keep up with that.
Although I have to say, Sinatra was the best of the best to me.
Well, you see, the thing with Dean Martin is you've got Dean Martin. Sinatra used to deliberately bring in arrangements that would allow him flourishes for pauses. If you listen to the Nelson Riddle stuff and the Quincy Jones stuff, so it'd be "You Make Me Feel So Young," gap. Yeah. Okay. Monro was straight through there. But in answer to your question, yeah, I think he would have been a super. But then again, let's go back to Scott Walker. Scott Walker had that.
Scott Walker had everything.
He had everything, but he chose not to go down that path. Who's to say Matt Monro would want to go down that path? You know, you're second guess.
The thing is, sorry, but my thoughts on that is Scott Walker was a genuinely, and to say kind of tortured artist. He was an artist first and didn't want to be a pop star with all the accoutrements and all the garbage that goes with being a pop star. He wasn't interested in that. The fact that he was like one of the most good-looking, coolest guys ever on the planet. Yeah. He was like giving Steve McQueen a run for his money, I would have thought. And he didn't care. He didn't want that. It was all, for him, it was the art. And I did another radio station this week, and we did a little tribute to Scott Walker. And it's a track I hadn't heard, and it just absolutely blew me away. It was quite a rare track. And you forget the tone of his voice. It was just fantastic. Just extraordinary.
You don't remember the track, do you? Because I've got every note he's breathing
it's
to the
from
microphone.
A movie. It's from a French film.
Well, he did an album called The Moviegoer, but he also did a song called an album called Scott Sings Songs from his television series, and that's got a lot of movie themes on it as well. It wasn't Speak Softly, was it? From The Godfather?
No.
Matt Monro covered that as well.
No, I know that one. No, it wasn't anything as obvious as that. It was something much rarer.
His voice was beyond his years.
I know who he is now.
Oh,
I know who he is.
Welcome to my world.
That's why I was so upset when I spoke to you on Monday. I thought, that's no reaction from a musician. I said I'm upset because Scott's gone.
He does the song from the golf. Yeah, he does Speak Softly. Yeah,
Scott did a cover of that.
He is. Is it the one in The Godfather?
No, that was Matt Monro.
That was Matt Monro.
Yeah, wasn't too similar.
Not too dissimilar.
It's just. Do you see why there are times that I want to bang my head against the wall, because James, as we say, is just 24, and I've got milk older than that in my fridge. And your reference points are fantastic.
When you say best singer, my head goes to Freddie Mercury. But then again, when you say Matt Monro, I do know who Matt Monro is, but when you say Matt Monro, I'm like, oh, you know, but it's not that reference point. It's like, well, I don't go that far back.
I don't think Freddie Mercury was
he did Born Free. That was his biggest.
Born Free. Yeah. No, that's what I mean. I do know who he is.
If I was ever invited, and I'm hoping that Barry Stickins will arrange it, because he knows everything. If I was ever invited to do Desert Island Discs, ever, I would have to have On Days Like These.
That's beautiful.
By Matt Monro.
Yeah.
It's just great. Yeah, it's just beautiful. Like you're there. And it's interesting, we talk about well-being and stuff like that. The moment I hear that track begin, I'm driving along a beautiful coastal road and a Amalfi or Sorrento. I'm naturally in an open-top Ferrari. Well, that's going to happen. But you're there. The sun's smiling at you. It's just that's how evocative music is.
The care homes do that as well. You can just see that spark. You do a song. Halfway to Paradise gets them for some reason.
What, Billy Fury?
Yeah. and you can see they're back. They're there.
I see Billy Fury's. This is not meant to be morbid. It's actually nice. I believe Billy Fury is buried very close to where my late wife is, by pure chance, I can assure you. And the grave is so beautifully tended. There's always fresh flowers. There's always things. Another person that James would have heard of, Billy Fury, who had the look, had the looks.
Yeah.
And they were. I'm not bigging it up, but if you want to say pop songs, as the great Mickey Most used to say, pop is short for popular. They're just great 3.5 minute pop songs that you want to go out and buy. Right, this book is cracking me up straight away. I love whoever designed the cover for you. Major props to them.
Yeah,
and it's called. I absolutely love this. It says, "If you don't like this book, then you're no friend of mine." That's from Ivan. How do you pronounce that?
Ivan.
You're wearing glasses.
Doroshuk from Remember That Hats.
All right. Okay.
Yeah, that's actually looked from one of his songs. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love this. It says, "Just heard you on the radio. Have a few issues." It's a fantastic Dear Mr. Popstar by Derek and Dave Philpott, which is your non-de-plume.
Yeah.
Pick a. This is. I'm absolutely loving this book. Pick a few things. Go on.
Well,
just pick
the first one we ever did.
Your favourite.
The first one we ever did was to Nick Kershaw.
Right.
And we just said,
did you wear a snood when you wrote it?
Oh, we don't get him on that.
On the snood.
Bless him. No, because Dad said, he said, "Dear Mr. Kershaw, no, I don't think I would want to be in your shoes because obviously you're of a diminutive stature. You obviously take a size 8, and I'm a size 9." And Nick just wrote back and said, "Don't worry, we can put some tissue paper in there. I can wear you." And so we've got that, and we've got a lot of them we didn't get replies to, but we stuck them in there because they were so funny.
Pick some of your favourites. I absolutely adore books like this because I have a low threshold of boredom, so I can just dip in and dip out. It's perfect.
Oh, here's a good one for you. Dear Miss Carlyle.
This is to presumably Belinda Carlyle.
Yeah.
Right. Dear Miss Carlyle. Go on.
Don't you mean Devon? Devon is a place on earth. Because we can't find heaven on Google Maps, and it's just silly. It's just very. That's what I said to you earlier. It's a false name, so it's just been really stupid.
Did you get a response?
Didn't get a reply to that one because it was only based on who we could get to. But we were getting so notorious in a good way that Carol Decker from
I love Carol.
Yeah, oh, she's lovely.
I saw her play.
We'll send her a link to this because she's lovely.
I sent her. Actually saw her play not that long ago at the casino, the Hippodrome Casino in Leicester Square, and they were terrific.
She's lovely, isn't she?
I do what you do. So on Twitter with Carol Decker, any gag I can do about China in your hand, dropping a cup, anything. It doesn't matter what she's tweeting. If I can bring it round to that, and she's like so used to. She's like waiting to see what gag I can possibly,
she knows
rinse.
It's coming.
Wait for it.
So what happened with Carol was that we wanted her in the book, and I knew she was on tour with Nick, so we sent her this demented letter, and I just had this vision of her printing this letter from going to Nick's trailer and said, "What's this?" And he'd go, "Oh, it's Derek and Dave. Don't worry, they're fine."
So they're your pseudonyms, but it's your dad.
Yeah.
So you and your dad.
Listen, the parallels between because he knows nothing about music, he would come. James, he's going to come up with stuff that you or I would not even think of because he's taken the lyric literally, and he doesn't know or care who the artist is. So he's taken it purely
just from what they are saying.
Yeah. So, dear Spandau Ballet, you bought a ticket to the world. Now you've come back again. I think you'll find that living on planet Earth is actually free of charge. So I suggest you take your travel agent to Watchdog. And he doesn't care who it is.
What did your dad used to do?
He was a proofer. He was a printer. Yeah.
He must be pleased with the book then.
Well, because he can appreciate it aesthetically because that's what his job used to be.
I'm going through this process myself, and I can tell you that my book, Should I Live That Long, will be out shortly. But my God, getting the printing correct and getting the look and the feel of it right.
Well, that's the beauty of going through Unbound, you see, because they recognised we had this colossal fan base, so they said, "Look, you raise the money to get this done, and you deliver your manuscript, and we will just make it a beautiful thing."
How there's a lot of people who are listening going, oh, I want to write a book. Yeah, right. By the way, if you want to write a book, this is how you do it. You sit down at your word processor, your laptop, whatever, and you start writing.
Exactly.
Don't just keep talking about it. You can keep talking about it for the next 3,000 years.
You're right.
You just do it. That's how it works.
True,
and if you run out of steam, then you haven't got a book in you. If you've got a book in you, you will write it.
True.
That's how it works.
It's so true.
You know?
So true, yeah.
And you can go to every class and read every book, and it's got nothing to do with that. It's got to do with, is it inside you? Have you got a story to tell? Well, just get it out on the page.
I've had a title for years.
Which is? Oh, you don't want to tell us because you think we're going to nick it.
There was a company making a documentary.
Just talk your mic there.
Yeah, there was a company making a documentary. Yeah. And they spent 3 months at our house and following us around.
Ooh.
A film called Blinded for Channel 4. And one day we were sitting at the table in our house having breakfast. And Toby was only young, and he was, in fact, they came up and filmed him with Chris one day. And we were sitting there, and Toby started picking his nose, as young people do. And I went, stop picking your nose, or your eyes will fall out.
Oh!
And the guy who was the director, he just went, that'd be a great book. That's what he said. Never got round to it. But he said that'd be a great title for a book. So, but see, we can laugh at that.
Only a dad can say that.
Of course.
Right?
Yeah. Anyway, sorry, that's my book title. No book yet.
Do you want to? I mean, seriously, have you thought about doing it?
I have. I did sit down once and start.
It's an epic.
Typing away about the whole episode of bringing up Toby. Just to, and one day, now I'm retired. I've got lots of time, Russ.
Well, yeah, right. Said no one ever. You want something done? Ask a busy man. That's always the case. The thing is, I'm just wondering, because with you, yours is really funny and right up my street, and yours is inspirational. It would be inspirational, not just for because so many people, especially who listen to the show, are going through mental health issues, physical health issues, all sorts of things. Breakup of a relationship, job problems. You don't know. It's just being a person in 2019 is damn hard in a very fragmented and not particularly pleasant world at the moment. It's really quite nasty. And so it's like a beacon. It's like a beacon, because I always thought that if you wrote your problems on a scrap of paper, put them into a top hat, in a room with loads of people, you'd pray you get your own problems back, because you don't want anybody else's problems, because they're always infinitely worse. No matter how crap you think your life is, someone else has got stuff. The thought of having one of my sons born without eyes it makes me want to cry. It actually makes, and there you are, and I've met Toby like loads of times, known you for a long time, and you're both inspirational, which is not a word that I throw around lightly, but you are. So for you to write a book, it wouldn't be like aren't I clever, pat myself on the back. It's like, right, here is a humongous problem, and something that will last for life, but yet look what this young guy has achieved, and look how strong we are as a family. So I think it would be a wonderful thing to do.
If you set me a time scale,
you want me to?
There's a challenge. The challenge is there, Ross.
It would. Well, I can tell you from my own experience.
I know.
If you do it, the only way to do it. All right. Here's a 101 on book. Either set yourself a daily number of words, or a weekly number of words. If you can't fit it every day, say I'm going to do 2,000 words a week. An average book has got to be 70,000 absolute minimum. 80,000 is normally what they're looking for.
Wow.
Less than that is a pamphlet, really. So my book's 130,000 words. It's like 350 pages or something. It's an epic. But that's a different matter. But you've got a story to tell, which is a finite thing. But there's all sorts of anecdotes and things.
It's the same as what Dave's done here. This is fun.
Yeah.
And this is fun, isn't it? That's what it's about. It's fun.
Nobody's done it before. It's just, I said before, everybody's dad can do this. But it's just we put the website together, and I thought, and when we got the answers, started to get replies back without expecting them. That's what I said to Dad. If this is interactive, no one's ever done this before. So it's like the best ideas are just happy accidents, aren't they?
Always.
Organically, and you just let the. And the good thing about the internet is that it drove us, because people said, well, you know, if you've got so-and-so act, I can probably get you this act, so do a letter for him. And it's so, we just sat back.
Is there anybody you're particularly trying to reach now?
If you'd have asked me last week, on Sunday, I'd have said, Scott.
Oh, right.
But
you have to use a Ouija board for them, Fred.
The thing with pop is infinite. It's thousands of artists you can go to. So for every person that we approached and said, will you do it? 50 said no, or 50 we just got scene ticks or no replies. Oh. But it's infinite. And you've got, pop is now, 70 years old, isn't it? Yeah. It's
weird thing to
it's really weird. It's really weird. So, no, I'm quite happy. And it's a nice question because it's not personal, okay? It's based on what I can get out of the lyric when I play it to Dad. It cracks me up, you know? Because he'll come up with stuff that you and I, like we did the Wurzels, okay? You know, I've got a brand new combine harvester, and we just said, well, hold on a minute. BBC Wiltshire is saying that farmers are being strapped for subsidies. What are you doing buying a new one? You know, if you're that strapped for subsidies, you just buy a second hand. You're just showing off the Wurzels, you know?
Is he does he know what it is? Is he just very dry?
Took him a while.
Is he
he's the same as everybody's
dry?
dad. It's just we're writing it down. People say, oh, it's a special thing you're doing. It's not. Everybody's dad does it.
No, everybody's dad doesn't do it.
You don't think?
No, I don't.
Maybe I'm too close to it.
I think it's absolutely...
Back me up, James.
My dad's very, very music savvy, so
that's no good. You see, that's the thing. It's his ignorance and his naivety that makes it funny. Okay, because he said to me recently, "Oh, I've been researching such and such about it." I said, "Your research is you sit and watch telly. you don't, the more you know about this thing, the less funny it's going to be." You know,
read the paper and forget.
Exactly, it's your naivety and your oblivious nature to these tracks.
What's the lyric? What's the lyric that's got him going the most? Do you think?
Oh,
I just love the sound of this. It's just me. Every time I'm thinking about this, making me laugh.
You're going to start getting texts from me.
We get it a lot. Have you written to so and so? Have you written to so and so? Yeah,
I would have written to Nick Kirsch going, yeah, you know, I've noticed you're saying that there's a hole in the middle. That is normally where a hole would appear. Why is this exceptional?
Well, we've got the Green Day we did. We said, you'll get this one, James. Dear Green Day, I resent your curt instruction that I should wake you up when September ends. This snappy command should at best be directed to your personal assistant rather than an unpaid employee. The thing is, you'll never listen to these records in the same way. You'll never listen to these records in the same way again, for which we apologise.
I'm thinking of the Peter Kay routine, the misheard lyrics, which no matter how many times I see it, I'm not a massive fan of his, but that just cracks
What do you mean,
up.
Beelzebub has a devil for a sideboard?
There was an old Rod Stewart song called, what was it, Gasoline Alley Bread. And an old friend of mine, when we were at school, she always thought it was go and tell Ali Fred, and her name was Alison, so she was convinced that Gasoline Alley Fred was go and get Ali Fred. We couldn't convince her otherwise.
The one you could actually take this further, because you could go to films. You could go to film stars because of some of the cracking lines that have been said in films.
It's been suggested to us, do this and do that.
That'd be brilliant.
We're so comfortable with what we're doing now, you know.
It's a world you know, isn't it?
Yeah, and also I like projects where they don't change. There's nothing like watching a pet project and you're thinking what they're doing now is different because they're looking for our wider audience now.
Yeah.
We're happy with the fact that this is an accident, okay? And I think if we try to sort of branch out, it just might. And I respect what you're saying. We'd have to start again because we're just so used to doing this. This is 10 years in the making. It took us 10 years to get the trust of the pop stars to get that done.
Really?
Oh,
took 10 years?
It took 10 years. Yeah. First book took 7 years, and that took another 2. We've been doing this since 2008.
Blimey.
Yeah.
Book writing is not a quick process.
No.
Is it? And compiling stuff like this is...
and also, we're at the mercy of waiting on the replies, because these guys are doing this. There's no stuffed brown envelopes involved. They're doing this for nothing. They're doing this because they love the project.
I'd like to Paul Young and go, no parley, where do you stand on the Brexit situation? You have to change the name of it.
We actually did say to Paul Young, with regard to wherever you lay your hat, that's wherever you lay your hat, that's your home.
Yeah.
It's not legally viable. And also, we also said to Elton John, Elton John, dear Mr. John, we have been telling everybody that this is our song, but so far royalties have not been forthcoming.
We're waiting for our paycheck.
And also, I think
it's absolutely genius.
And we also said, Mr. John, Saturday night is all right. No night is acceptable for an altercation. Elton John, there's loads you can do about Elton John.
Well, it's funny. You could do it. Brilliant. You could do it with films, but music has a lot like less literal meaning, doesn't it? So it's like when we listen to music, we kind of, you take it onto this like sort of higher level, don't you? But then it's like you can really just be like, no, this is the literal meaning.
Sometimes,
whereas with a film, there's like
sometimes we will deliberately get the wrong end of the stick. If we can't find anything funny in the lyric, we'll let's just say we've completely misunderstood it, so that they can come back. Because what I say to the artist is, just imagine we're that annoying bloke backstage that's been pestering you for 25 years trying to tell you what your song's about, okay? But sometimes we get it to the point where we're flooded with messages, people saying, oh, I scream at the radio every time, thanks for finally, because there's a Squeeze song, Up the Junction.
Yep.
What's the lyric? I took her to an incubator where 20 minutes later she gave birth to a daughter. No, you didn't, okay, because the baby's for the incubator, and why would the mother be in the incubator before she's given birth? And beside which they wouldn't fit in there. And people just write to us and say, Mike, I've been shouting at my radio for 30, thank you so much for finally, because we're like internal audit. We've examined, we found these discrepancies. Yeah.
I was once invited to a cabaret thing. One of the hotels in town started a thing called the Green Room, which meant to bring back the sort of intimate idea of the cabaret. And the artist, I'm completely blank. I feel embarrassed now. MacArthur Park.
Yeah. Where Jimmy Webb wrote.
Jimmy Webb. So Jimmy Webb's at the piano. It's just a very intimate setting of Jimmy Webb at the piano talking, and people are talking back to him. And obviously MacArthur Park, one of the most talked about lyrics for many, many years. And somebody in the audience said, "Oh, so glad you're here, Jimmy, and welcome to London. It's great." Because it was that sort of chit chat. What does it mean, MacArthur Park? What do the lyrics mean? And he just went, I've no idea. I just thought the words sounded nice. And we sat in sudden silence, having listened to this song forever, thinking, now we've got the chance to ask the author himself, the actual lyricist. No, I just thought it sounded kind of nice. And it does. And we thought, oh, okay.
And it does sound kind of nice. I just want to say we've got a few comments on Facebook. So Dennis Ralal, I can never do the name, sorry. He says that there is a raft of research that recognise the benefits of singing and even more. So great work for you, Dave. You're doing very, very good.
Care homes, yes.
And I think music and singing has healing properties anyway. I don't think they need research to know that. And also Steve Harris says hi, so I thought we'd say hi back.
Hi, Steve Harris. Thank you.
So yeah, just thought we'd say hi. But I mean, music, you don't need science to tell you that it does good. I don't think. I mean, I'm sure there is scientific data out there, but
if we had Kevin Lay coming in, he would give you the neuroscience. He's one of our new presenters who's brain like a planet, and he would tell you the neuroscience of why the receptors and everything, and why music cheers you up or makes you feel sad or brings back memories and all of that. But it's just it's a kind of visceral thing. It's a kind of gut thing. You hear a song and you're away.
And music's timeless as well. Like you can, like I said, me and Nan sit and we listen to Dean Martin, but that's so far away.
I'd kind of argue with that with the Bay City Rollers. I think they were off their time, James.
Don't know who the Bay City Rollers are.
That's low, isn't it?
Oh dear.
Oh god, the animosity I'm getting there.
God, you have heard of
scarf is
precisely. You have heard of the Beatles, right? No, I'm looking at you. Have you heard of the Beatles?
Who? Sorry? Ooh. No, of course I've heard of the Beatles. They're only maybe the biggest band ever to live.
Yeah. Okay, just double checking.
So this is my story with the Beatles before we go to the ad break. There's a very famous episode of The Simpsons where Homer Simpson and his band perform on top of the pub that they will go in, Moe's Tavern. Now, it wasn't until a few weeks ago that I actually saw the video of the Beatles playing on top of
the Apple Building on Savile Row.
In Savile Row, and I realised, that's not a Simpsons thing, that's a Beatles thing.
Or maybe in your mind you thought, wow, imagine the Beatles copied the Simpsons.
Yeah, the Beatles copied exactly.
Why didn't the Beatles make their faces yellow? Then it would have been perfect.
And do barbershop.
And Paul have blue hair. Right. This has been it's interesting, and if you can say, well, Russ, are you just digressing from like the ethos of Men's Radio Station? I think no. This is at the heart of it. It's music. How through the ages, through care homes to kids, it brings us joy, and joy is part of well-being. Thank you to Dave Dawson. Thank you so much. And if we want to get hold of your book, Dear Mr. Popstar, how do we do it?
You'll find it online. It's everywhere.
It's everywhere.
Omnipresent.
It's omnipresent. And oh my God, Barry Stickins, give our love to Master Toby. He's 30 years old. This is just extraordinary. All right, we'll be back in just a moment.
You're listening to Russ Kane on
Men's Radio Station, where men really talk.
Hello, I'm Lawrence Davis. I'm the proud owner of Stoughton Cigars in Mayfair and Knightsbridge. For the past 60 years, we've been providing the world's best Cuban cigars. When it comes to cigars, there's no other than Stoughton Cigars from Mayfair and Knightsbridge. We at Stoughton's would like to wish Men's Radio Station every support in their task for helping men's emotional and mental well-being. Check them out. Men's Radio Station, where men really talk.
Your call is important to us. You are now number 15 in a queue.
At Profile Insurance Services, we treat people as individuals. You'll speak to a real person, not a call centre. We're fast, small, independent, and have a superb team of insurance specialists. And they're really nice too. Advice is totally free and we cover everything. Call 0208 931 3306. Listeners to Men's Radio Station won't pay a penny for admin fees. That's 0208 931 3306. With Profile Insurance Services, you're covered.
Let me tell you about Jermyn Street Theatre. We are the smallest theatre in the West End, only 70 seats. We are a registered charity and not grant-aided, run by a small team of volunteers and trustees. Jermyn Street Theatre is a hidden gem. It combines the comfort and convenience of the West End with the intimacy of a studio. Every seat has a perfect view of the stage, and even a whisper is audible. This is a secret theatre in the heart of the West End, once found, never forgotten.
Slick 50 Barbershop is in West Cliff-on-Sea, Essex. Elaine, specialist in retro haircuts, has been trading since 1987. Music and lifestyle are her inspiration. You can also purchase merchandise and Toot Sweet pomade. The shop is open Tuesday, Thursday, Friday and Saturday. Please call 01702 390 916 to book your haircut. Visit barbershoprockabilly.co.uk, Slick 50 Barbershop on Instagram. Gracias.
Not ready for making tax digital? Struggling to keep up with changes? Or do you simply need a friendly and reliable face to handle your accounting needs? With over 20 years of experience, BBK Partnership in 5 London areas provide personal advice, and all our partners are readily available in person and by phone at times that suit you. Give BBK a call today, 0208 216 2520, or visit our website, bbkca.com.
You're listening to Men's Radio Station, where men really talk.
I don't know about you, I'm having one heck of a good Sunday. James, you enjoying that?
I'm really enjoying it.
Well, in that case, it's worth starting the radio station because we're enjoying it. So anybody else enjoying it, it's a plus. It's a bonus. You start talking about music and then you start talking about gags and stuff like that. I am so happy. Our final guest, and I'm really looking forward to this. Oh, we haven't got any hot water. Damn. Right. Okay. welcome Adrian Lee.
Thank you very much.
Not at all. There we are. Welcome. Now, it says here, you're a very successful PR, something very close to my heart. You were ex-head of, I deal with PR companies all the time, you know, they're the good, the bad, and the really ugly, and the good ones are great, and the bad ones are
that's probably
should be banned. You're the ex-publicity chief at Sky.
Correct.
You work with Coca-Cola, Sony, Mars. Love all that. And then you left all of this successful, huge lifestyle and great achievements for tea.
Yes.
I want to hear all about it.
Yes. Quite an unusual change of direction.
Bizarre change of direction, if I may say, and very strange.
Not entirely by design, I guess. I sort of fell into work and ended up doing public relations for about 15 years, and I didn't really look up. I must have been okay at it. I was getting promoted, and it was busy, and it was fun, and it was crazy 90s days of public relations and working with TV talent. And,
nice times.
Yeah, big launches, and it was very exciting, very buzzy. I was doing quite well, and I guess sort of 15 years passed before I sort of realised what had happened, really, and it was good fun. It was fast. It was furious. But at the same time, I didn't really know what I was doing. I wasn't really conscious of it. I was just doing, and I seemed to be doing.
But you were
quite
clearly
well.
very good at it.
I must have been doing something.
But that's a sort of environment. I mean, you know, I've been in and out of PR for years, and it's a sort of environment that if you're no good, you're out because your colleagues and everybody just won't tolerate it.
I guess. I mean, you're only as good as your last campaign, and you have to keep coming up with sort of ways of making often some quite boring, dry, uninteresting things as interesting as humanly possible. And it's a challenge, you know, and that's what keeps you going is, you know, how can I take this thing and make it even more interesting, but ultimately quite unfulfilling, I suspect, also because you're doing all these great things. You feel on top of the world. You feel like you're really top of your game. You're doing some great stuff. You're in the papers, and your clients are happy. But there's nothing really very tangible at the end of it, and you sort of look around, and you know, my brother's a consultant neurologist, and you know, my father was RAF and then psychiatric nurse, and my mother was a nurse all her life, and you sort of wonder a little bit what you're.
Then there's me plugging Coca-Cola.
Yes, exactly. So, you know, my student job as a hospital porter wasn't enough really to carry on the do my bit for society. And I don't know. I was having a lot of fun, and it was brilliant, you know. And I went. You know, it's a great career to be involved in. I did very well out of it, you know, and got some great experiences. But it didn't ultimately leave me very satisfied, and it was burning me a lot towards the end. You know, it was properly candle at both ends. It's a job that goes into the mornings and the evenings.
It has no structured hours, does it?
No, and you know, the lovely journalists, you know, in certain, you know, tabloid media sectors prefer to phone you on a Friday night to give you a little chance to respond to their weekend stories.
Every time.
So, you know, it's all a game, and it's fun as a game, and fun is great, but fun can only sustain you so far.
It's funny you say that, because I had a year's contract with the Department of Health as a consultant. I'm not medical, but my skills were meant to be communications. And if you raise your eyebrows, James, I promise you I'll throw something heavy. And you could set your watch, Friday, 4:00, the broadsheets would phone to try and catch us out.
Correct.
Every Friday at 4:00, the Sunday Times would be on the phone, or the Sunday Telegraph or whatever, ready to just try and catch you out. Guaranteed.
Why Friday at 4? What, they think
Can't give you less time to respond.
No time to respond, no time to gather your answer, to catch you on the hop, to make sure that you say something really stupid that they can plaster all over the headlines.
But surely don't you just go goodbye and hang up the phone?
Really? What, to the Sunday? So you're speaking on behalf of a huge government department and you say goodbye. We spoke to James Blake, Director of Communications for the Department of Health, who refused to speak to us. How does that look, James? That's PR lesson number one.
Let me get my pen and paper out.
It may feel good at the time, but it doesn't feel that great on a Sunday.
You can't read the paper.
Yeah. It's a tricky game. It's a tricky game, and it is a game.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
Sorry, I interrupted.
No, not at all.
I just when you said that,
I had a really good run. When I was in an agency, I was working with, huge multinationals like Coca-Cola and Mars, and that was totally eye-opening and a new world to me I'd never seen. Also, I was launching 1 million of other people's smaller, tiny products, during those years, and week in, week out, you'd be launching something new. But I guess it was a bit like being a teacher. You never got to saw the lifespan of that company or that product. You were just working on it for a launch or a period of time, then you were passing it back, and really, apart from my 5 years at Sky, I hadn't really had the chance to really invest myself in one company, one area, one thing, and really become expert in that, and really become passionate about that.
Because you get brought in, if you're not used to the world of PR, and why should you be? You get brought in for maybe 1, 2, 3 months. A 6-month contract would be a really good deal, but most of these things are a sort of 3-month duration to see it through from launch.
Get things launched.
Get it launched, and then you go cheerio, and then you might be on a smaller retainer just to keep the wheels turning, so to speak. That's kind of it. Yeah. So I totally get you don't get that longevity, and you don't get the satisfaction of seeing what happened to product X or product Y.
Not so much. And I mean, the things that I learned through working with lots and lots of different companies were also sort of seeing how the chase for the money, the chase for always trying to decrease your spend, trying to increase your customers. The businesses, the heart and soul were seeming to get lost in them. And I just had this theory that actually, if people wanted to buy tea, I'm sure they would just as much like to buy tea off me as from a massive company. So why not put myself in that position?
But you see, this is fascinating. What gave you the idea? What was your moment when you thought, I'm going to take on Tetley, Taifu, PG Tips, all of them household names for, dozens, maybe 50 centuries probably. Yeah. And here's me, I'm Adrian Lee, and I'm going to go into tea.
Yeah.
It's a fantastic leap.
It's a bit nuts, isn't it?
No, it's not nuts. I love things like that, but I'm just curious. I always like to know what made somebody think, right, that's what I'm going to do.
Do you know what? It had to be something. You've got to just start with something. Tea seemed, I wasn't a huge, crazy tea person all my life. I kind of got into it about 10, 15 years ago, largely through my wife, who introduced me to some new flavours and Asian teas. But really, it was, part of it was I saw all these huge companies not doing very exciting things with tea, and nothing much had really changed since the 50s and the introduction of the tea bag. And
maybe changing the shape of the tea bag seemed to be a big deal.
That was a
which
huge
I never got.
deal, wasn't it?
Oh, it's a triangular tea bag.
That's right. And then the circular tea bag. I know, and that was innovation. And this is crazy. Tea's been around for nearly 5,000 years and born in different... 2737, I believe. Emperor Sheng Neng, sitting under a tree in China, and a leaf fell into his cup, was the first.
Are you kidding me?
I wasn't there, but this is what they tell me.
James, if you say that I was there again,
me and Sheng, man, we go way
back. Me and Sheng are tight.
Hanging with the Sheng.
But it's funny.
Everyone knows Sheng.
That little antidote you said, I saw that on your website, and I was like, I'm going to Google this, and it seems to be the story of tea.
It's hard to dispute as well, because no one's there to disprove it either. But allegedly, this is where it started. And, it's certainly been around in culture for thousands of years, and there's all sorts of different cultures and different ways of taking it and different ways of production, and it's just so fascinating, gone off in all these different directions. And here in the UK, we seem to be happy with our tea bag of CTC or very low grade fannings or dust within a...
Whoa, stop.
Sorry, technical. There's a world of technicality in tea, which is a bit insane.
But I want to know about that. Because it's interesting.
It's different in every single country as well, which is crazy. So I'm still learning. And in India, they have
these letter gradings of, you've probably heard of, orange pekoe and fine orange pekoe and a broken orange pekoe.
No.
Essentially, more letters.
We don't know what you're saying. It's fantastic.
I've got a Darjeeling here. It's a TG FOP1, I think. Tippy Golden Flowery Broken Orange Pekoe 1. It's basically the second finest grade of tea. More letters.
Let's take it
better.
back. Let's take it back to basics. Let's take it back to basics, because you're talking to a guy who has. Do you want tea? Builder's tea, please, or English breakfast tea. I'm a happy bunny. English breakfast tea, spot of milk. Thank you very much. I'm done.
Yeah,
I'm kind of done.
Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that.
So, is it? Because I know absolutely the square root of nothing about this subject. It's the way the leaf is grown, the way the leaf is then processed. What's the deal that makes tea good or bad? How does that work?
The way it's grown and the way it's produced, absolutely. The amazing thing is, even though there are thousands and thousands of different types of tea, and you've got green tea, black tea, white tea, and oolong.
What's white tea?
I'll come to that in a second.
Okay.
I think all of them.
I jumped in too soon.
It's
my enthusiasm.
It can be complicated or it can be simple. In that all of these come from exactly the same leaf, the same plant, the Camellia sinensis or the tea bush. So a white tea, a green tea, a black tea, a Japanese sencha, rolled teas. They all just come from the same plant, but they're grown at different heights. They use different.
When you say heights, you mean the altitude?
The altitude is very important. Okay. So low-grown teas such as Assam, which would be probably grown at around 800 feet, 1,000 feet. They're known for strength and strong flavoured teas. A lot of your English breakfast teas, they will have a good punch, a good kick. Be very strong teas because they're morning wake up, let's get going, work, productivity kind of teas. So they'll go for stronger.
I've never thought of it like that, because I love my coffee, so I'm a coffee nut.
Yeah,
and so I totally get. If you were going to be talking about coffee, I could kind of have a semi-intelligent conversation. But teas, I know nothing about. Apart from my mum used to have at least 20 cups a day, at least. 20 cups.
We're the second biggest tea drinking nation in the world per capita.
Who's number one? I thought it'd be us.
It's the Irish.
Oh, so not far.
It's the Irish, not far away. But amazing to think that this plant that originated in China, on the other side of the world, is now drunk the most.
Why do you think we like it so much?
Me. Isn't it because it was exotic, right? It was and it used to be seen as a privileged tea.
You're absolutely right. I mean, that is how it started.
How did you pull that out the bag?
It's got an amazing history.
I know stuff. I don't just know electronics and.
You don't know that for sure. But I mean.
The mighty oracle of all things.
He just pulls this stuff out of thin air every week, and I go, how does he know that?
It's highly impressive.
And then at one point in history, it was such a deficit, the amount we were spending on tea, that we actually went to war over it.
Yeah.
And that was the Opium Wars against China.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was the wife of Charles II, I think, who is supposed to have introduced it in the UK. She was Portuguese, and she was a bit of a tea addict, and she introduced it to the royal circle and the royal court, and then it caught on from there as being a high society
trendy thing.
And it was an afternoon thing. It was, it was a delightful little lift. It is ultimately a psychoactive drug, and it obviously has the caffeine that keeps you going. It's the world's most consumed psychoactive drug. It contains caffeine, and
You're explaining a lot about my mother now.
it contains theanine, but originally it was high society, and it was very, very sought after, and there was a 25p on the pound tax brought in, which then brought in loads of tea smuggling and all the rest of it. The Opium Wars were crazy, and that was largely, we used to get all of our tea from China, where it was the only place where it was known to be grown, then about 70, 80 years later, the British decided through the East India Company, wouldn't it be nice if we grew our own instead of having to buy it from the Chinese? But they were trading to buy it from the Chinese with opium grown in India. And the Chinese decided they didn't like all of this opium flooding in being traded for their tea. So they basically banned selling tea to the British. So the British sent in this guy, Robert Fortune, a Scottish guy, and he shaved his head and left himself with a little pigtail, and he donned traditional Chinese clothing, and he went into the sticks in rural China for about 3 years, I believe, and he stole 20,000 tea plants and took them over to Darjeeling. It was the biggest piece of industrial espionage you've ever heard of.
How did he steal it?
Well, kind of
20,000 tea plants.
Yeah, it kind of wasn't seen as stealing at the time. The plants,
centre, would you?
the view of sort of that time was that the plants belonged to the earth and the world, and not the country that owned them. So if you could go into a country and bring a plant out, it wasn't actually stealing. So it was extraordinary, and he took these plants and also all the knowledge, and he went over to Darjeeling to set up there, and he actually found it was already growing.
Why Darjeeling?
It's on the border, isn't it?
It's on the border. It's easy to get to, and it's got the altitude. It's the right, it's at about 6,000 feet, and it was suited. And with tea, you want to grow it as high as you can, but obviously the higher up.
Because why?
Well, lots of reasons. I mean, largely you get more sunshine during the day, but it's colder at night when you're high up, so that preserves the nutrients overnight. It's harder to grow at altitude, so the leaves push more carbohydrate into their leaves to make them grow, which gives them a slightly sweeter flavour. So there are various sort of nuanced things with the altitude and the sun and the climate.
That's where all the flavouring comes from, doesn't it? It's like the way that with the altitude and the stuff like that.
Absolutely, and the soil is obviously important, and then the way you pick it and produce it is hugely important as well. And different countries have sort of evolved their own techniques, but ultimately it's generally the same. You dry it and
really
then drink it.
Curious, and this will seem so dumb to you, but I'm sure I always like to ask what I think people would like to know. So if you already know it, sorry, but I don't. So you got a tea bush,
correct?
And then and how high would that be?
Well, it depends. You get Chinese tea bushes, and you get India bushes, and the Chinese bushes are generally smaller. Indian bushes can go higher, but a tea shrub will largely come up to about your waist,
4 feet high.
Yeah,
and then you come along to it, and you do literally picking the leaves off the tea bush. Is that literally what you're doing?
Yes, it's
by hand.
Well, by hand or by machine these days. So by hand would be called orthodox, and that it is literally done by hand. And a lot of tea is still picked that way. And some of the finest teas are picked that way. The other way is by machine, and it's harvested. The Japanese have got that down to an absolute fine art, and still produce some of the finest teas in the world through that process.
And these are like huge. I'm trying to get a mental picture of it. These are huge fields. Are we talking about?
Yes,
gigantic. Or?
Yeah, I mean they vary. Again, it varies from country to country. In some countries that you get a lot, each family will have a plantation, an area, like a garden, and they will grow their tea there, and then they will give that yield to an estate, and they will combine together all of the yields from all of the small holdings, and that will be that estate's tea. Other places, an estate will own miles and miles of rolling hills, so it does vary, and there's no particular set rule. Which is the right way, which is the best way. Equally, some organic teas are the finest, some non-organic teas are the finest. There's no set rules there either. So there are just now so many teas and so many different ways of producing it. The only really way to explore it properly is to get out there.
Has the tea leaf changed, or is it still the same as always been?
It's still the same.
The same. For example, tea that I'm drinking now is the same tea that hypothetically Emperor Sheng would have been
correct. Camellia sinensis.
Camellia sinensis. And because you know how some things, like they say the banana is different now, right, than how it used to be?
Yes, been modified and et cetera, et cetera. I'm sure some of that happens, but most core teas are from, in fact, many are from original, 100 and 200-year-old plants.
And and then, I'm guessing there must be some estates that are like really old.
Oh, there are some that
must be like vineyards,
and they are amazing little time capsules as well. I was out in the Tomsong estate in Darjeeling last May, and it was like stepping back in time. If you can imagine a sort of a picturesque white bungalow surrounded by beautiful emerald green tea fields, and in the background you've got the shadows of the Himalayas, and it's
I'm there. You're painting such a beautiful world picture. I'm actually there. How lovely is
it was
that?
Absolutely, they are beautiful, beautiful places, and obviously you get good estates and bad estates, and
what constitutes a bad estate?
Well, I mean,
you don't have to name them. I'm just curious.
No, of course, but I mean, I think you get bad in terms of welfare of workforce and production and how they look after the people, and you get bad in terms of are they producing good tea?
And would that affect? This is weird, but would that affect? I understand all about not HR, but you know what I mean, the way you look after your employees. I mean, they can't all be like me and James. It's impossible. No, I mean, the world would be magical if that was the case. But does it affect the flame? Just wonder how far I can push him.
One of these days,
I'm just going to shut you out. I really am. I'm telling you now. Does it affect the quality of the tea? That's what I was going to say.
I don't think it probably would, but it I guess over time, I mean, a lot of these teas are. And tea plantations are going to be around for decades, hopefully centuries, and so you've got to play the long game in tea. Really, there's not a huge amount of money in tea, but there is a lot of loyalty.
Why is that? Why?
Oh dear, I'm sorry about that. That was a total.
Not every single subject that we discuss on men's radio station is about you. Has it not done? It's an art form. I can pick any subject. Doesn't matter what it is. Game addiction. It's about him. Tea. It's about him.
I'm the star.
Music. You're the most egocentric person.
The sun revolves around me.
Well, yeah. Precisely.
But a lot of the plantations really are places that are not just work. They're places where these people live as well. So
it's a way of life, isn't it?
It is a way of life, and families, and often generations of families, will live on the plantation. And they're, the good plantations are the ones that absolutely look after their societal right and their obligations towards the community. So they're, in terms of schools and hospitals and helping with maternity and all sorts of areas. Some estates are far more progressive than others. And
so I'm just very curious because you've painted this beautiful picture and it sounds absolutely divine. I have to say that is my cup of tea. I would just I can't believe I just actually said that. I actually didn't realise I was walking into that particular minefield. But to be there, see the beautiful hills and the green, and it sounds great. But if you're picking by hand, I mean, do you need an absolutely vast? Because I presumably there's an optimum time. We've got to go and pick it now, right? Yes. That's it. You can't kind of hang about.
Yes, early in the morning.
Catch up on a few box sets. Yes. So with your Sky stuff. But do you have to send out a vast workforce? Is that how you do it?
They do, and specialist workforce as well. You're right. There are special times to pick tea. Before noon, when the leaf is coming out, is a perfect time to pick tea. Yeah, early morning, another good time. There are specialties. There is a frost tea that a specialist team will go out at sort of 4 or 5 in the morning and pick unthawed teas that grow leaves that grow through the frost before they've defrosted, and bring them back and wither them while they're still frozen. And you can hear the audible crack while they're withering, giving them a hard wither without a mechanical process. It's a bit boring. But
it's not boring at all, because what's that wine? What's the frozen wine? Oh, you don't drink suddenly. There's a wine. You don't drink at all.
Okay.
They take a wine which has been where the grapes have been exposed to frost, and now showing more huge chasms of ignorance. And the wine tastes, I forget what it's called, but it's very nice. It's a white wine, and so I get that. It doesn't sound
alien
to me.
Absolutely, it's just catching a plant at a different stage and preserving its taste for later, for when you
You know
put
what
it in the cup.
what I love about you is your passion for it. I could discuss any subject if the person is passionate about it. No.
It's so
I'm
easy
serious
to be passionate
because
about tea. Honestly, the more you get into it, the more you get into it. It's just you turn another corner and you find
it's true, James, isn't it? The people who come in sometimes they're just their particular niche and they just love it, and you think, I'm feeling that. I'm feeling that buzz. We're in conversation with Adrian Lee, the man of tea. I just made that up. You can have it. It's a catchphrase. There you go. Have it for nothing. Right. We'll be back in just a moment.
You're listening to Russ Kane on
Men's radio station, where men really talk.
Hello, I'm Lawrence Davis. I'm the proud owner of South Cigars in Mayfair and Knightsbridge. For the past 60 years, we've been providing the world's best Cuban cigars. When it comes to cigars, there's no other than South Cigars from Mayfair and Knightsbridge. We at Stouters would like to wish Men's radio station every support in their task for helping men's emotional and mental well-being. Check them out. Men's radio station, where men really talk.
Your call is important to us. You are now number 15 in a queue.
At Profile Insurance Services, we treat people as individuals. You'll speak to a real person, not a call centre. We're fast, small, independent, and have a superb team of insurance specialists. And they're really nice too. Advice is totally free and we cover everything. Call 0208 931 3306. Listeners to Men's radio station won't pay a penny for admin fees. That's 0208 931 3306. With Profile Insurance Services, you're covered.
Let me tell you about Jermyn Street Theatre. We are the smallest theatre in the West End, only 70 seats. We are a registered charity and not grant-aided, run by a small team of volunteers and trustees. Jermyn Street Theatre is a hidden gem. It combines the comfort and convenience of the West End with the intimacy of a studio. Every seat has a perfect view of the stage, and even a whisper is audible. This is a secret theatre in the heart of the West End, once found, never forgotten.
Slick 50 Barbershop is in Westcliff-on-Sea, Essex. Elaine, specialist in retro haircuts, has been trading since 1987. Music and lifestyle are her inspiration. You can also purchase merchandise and Toot Sweet Pomade. The shop is open Tuesday, Thursday, Friday and Saturday. Please call 01702 390 916 to book your haircut. Visit barbershoprockabilly.co.uk, Slick 50 Barbershop on Instagram. Gracias.
Not ready for making tax digital? Struggling to keep up with changes? Or do you simply need a friendly and reliable face to handle your accounting needs? With over 20 years of experience, BBK Partnership in 5 London areas provide personal advice, and all our partners are readily available in person and by phone at times that suit you. Give BBK a call today, 0208 216 2520, or visit our website, bbkca.com.
You're listening to Men's radio station, where men really talk.
And they do today. I think men have been talking about such fascinating issues, and it's all about well-being, which is a very large umbrella. But I think that both music and inspirational talk, like we had with Barry Stiggins, but now we're talking to Adrian Lee, and he's a man of tea, and he's talking about his teas, and he's brought some teas in. And what I love about this is you get a passion, and you think, you know what, I'm going to stop doing what I'm doing, and I'm going to do this. This is where my heart lies. Is that a reasonable summary?
I think so. Absolutely right. You know, there's a time when you've just got to have a go and do your thing. I had to carry on, and I do indeed still do some freelance PR to make my tea stuff pay bills, because when you're starting out on an untested business in a new area, you can't rely necessarily on the money floating in.
How scary is it to start your own business? Well, I've done it, and it's scary, but for you, how scary was it?
My personal experience was not scary. I found it remarkably easy to set up a company and just to get it going. But I didn't launch big. I launched I want small, and I'd urge anyone with an idea, or even just a small appetite, just to get something started and have a go. I mean, I literally thought, you know what, I'd like to do something around tea. I love the product. This, coffee's got too big for its boots. Tea needs a bit of a makeover, and it's a fascinating world of travel and culture and taste. And so I'll have a go. And I literally found a broker, and I bought myself a sack of some excellent quality one tea. I introduced myself to the man who used to run the warehouse next door to Maltby Street Market.
I know that well. Yeah.
And it used to be an antique warehouse next to the market, and I had a chat with him. I couldn't get into the market because I was a nobody at that stage. And I said, can I set up a table here? And he said, yeah, sure. And so I just set up a trestle table next to Maltby Street Market.
You are kidding me.
With
That
my
was
tea
it?
on it, and that's how I started.
No way.
Have you
Yeah,
been to Maltby
and-
Street, James?
No.
Oh, go. You'd enjoy it. It's fun.
And
A lot of fun. You'd like it.
And it was a great place to just be set up with a table. And it was nothing fancy. I had no branding at that stage. And, I literally had a table and my tea. And
it's funny, sometimes those are the best teas or coffees you can get, is that one man who just loves what he's doing. He's on his stall.
it was one thing as well. I wasn't trying to flog stuff.
Yeah.
I had, a really good little thing on my table, and I was very happy with my one tea, and I knew people would like it, and so I was happy to stand there just talking to people. And within about 3 or 4 weeks, I'd met 2 or 3 cafe owners, a couple of journalists who'd interviewed me about being at Maltby Street, even though I kind of wasn't, but I just attached myself. I have done Maltby Street proper since, but
Like being off Broadway, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm off Maltby Street.
That's right, and it took off, and a couple of cafes started taking my tea, and that started moving a little bit of volume, and it kind of grew from there. So literally, it was just taking that first step of, do you know what? I'll just try this. I'll just do this, and the fall wouldn't have been too big if it hadn't have worked, because I wasn't, there weren't too big setup costs. But it was just.
So you bought literally a sack.
A sack of one tea.
What is one tea? You keep saying it, and I don't really.
Oh, this one was just I just picked. This was an Assam tea, so I could have. I've now got about 250 teas. There are thousands of teas out there, but
on your website.
Yeah, I mean, it's how do you go about curating a selection? I don't really know. I just find the ones that I think are really, really cool.
Now, if we want to go and get your tea, we're going to talk about your teas in a second. But if you want to get, feel free, plug away. How do we get hold of you and your teas and everything?
Oh, this is the hard bit. As a lifelong PR, I've been plugging and helping other people plug all my life. I'm terrible at plugging my own thing. I love talking about tea generally and all the rest of it. I don't mind where people go and buy their tea from, but I would encourage them to just explore and experiment a bit more, because
well, you're really bashful about that. That's strange.
Well, it doesn't really matter as long as people are exploring more, widening their experiences. Great, stick to your classics and old habits die hard. And if you want a cup of Builders with 4 sugars in it, go for it. But try some of these other things too.
Not to be recommended, it would say. By the way, the 4 sugars
are quite enjoyable.
If you want to drop. Now you brought in teas. And talk us through it. Well, actually, if you could pass me one, I can have a good old butcher's at it.
I've just brought in a couple for you.
What have we got?
So there's some. So,
when you kicked off with your stall,
yes,
right?
Yes. Did
you have the packaging or no?
I had some packaging, and it's fairly easy to go and
get packaging.
Yeah, get packaging these days. And I had spend as little as you possibly can when you're setting up a business. I had friends help me all over the place. A friend who is a designer helped me with the logo.
So the logo is it's called your brand is Little Sparrow.
Yes.
Why is that?
Little Sparrow Tea. Well, there's 2 stories here. I'll be honest. It was supposed to be named after my wife, whose Chinese name we thought might have been Little Sparrow. As it transpires, it's a beautiful bird, but nonetheless, we'd registered the company and had the logo
my wife,
made.
Beautiful bird. Sorry, couldn't resist. Because it was asking to be done. So Little Sparrow and the logo.
Every country you ever go to, sorry, I see Little Sparrow everywhere I go, and it's always. Every airport I ever land, I come out and you'll see little sparrows. in Asia, or all over. And ever since I started spotting this, I cannot stop it. And so for me, little sparrow is that thing that's just kind of everywhere that you really like, but you don't really notice. And that's like tea.
It's a thing of luck, isn't it? If you see a sparrow,
is it
or something like that?
I don't know. You're making that up.
No, this one.
No, you're making that up.
Most things I have on good authority.
You're just saying it with some authority in your voice, and you're fooling absolutely nobody. Right, the tea.
But yes, it's little sparrow. Partly.
I'm going to completely mess up the pronunciation. Right, so I've got two teas here that Adrian Lee has handed me. Korakunda. That's as good as I'm going to get. Korakunda, close?
Yeah, good.
And it says, the world's highest recorded organic tea estate, white tea.
Correct.
So they're kind of long tea leaves, aren't they? They're like...
Yeah,
white
tea is essentially immature leaf, so it's almost bud. It's when the very, very top shoot comes out in the morning, and before it unfurls into a leaf. So it's like a pine needle. And it's called white tea because it's got the little baby fur, the little hairs on it still, that are silvery down, that make it look slightly white. And white tea is growing in popularity now, along with green tea.
So I've got the packet here. How would I cook? How would I boil? What would I do for Korakunda tea?
Well, white teas you would generally steep in a lower temperature water because it's a more fragile baby leaf, effectively, and you want to draw out all of the nutrients and flavours, but you don't want to damage it in the process. So, as a rule, white tea you would brew with about 70-degree water temperature, 65 degrees.
So now I'm lost. How do I do that with a kettle?
It's quite simple. You leave the kettle for 30 seconds, a minute before you pour the water.
So you boil it, leave it, comes down, pour it.
Exactly.
Is that fast?
Well, maybe. I mean, to be honest, green tea you would brew probably, leave it for a minute and then pour. Green tea, black tea you want at about boiling point. Green tea you like at about 80, 85 degrees, and white tea you want a bit cooler. I mean, they'll drink almost 50 degrees in some countries. They'll bring it right down and let it steep for longer. But essentially, less hot water, and a longer brewing process, so you're drawing out the flavours. So, white tea.
I've boiled my kettle. Because I'm very literal. I like these things. So I've boiled my kettle. Got my teapot. I've let the kettle stand for 30, 40 seconds, something like that. Pour it in, and then what? Just leave it?
Just leave it.
How long for?
It's so simple. Honestly, with white tea, so you leave the kettle, you're right, James, probably for a little bit longer. Wait till it cools down.
Should have said that.
You got me on a technicality.
You're right, James. James, you're so clever.
Yes.
God, you're irritating.
He's lighting a cigar.
Victory is mine.
So black tea, you'll add it to boiling water and you'll take them out after about 5 minutes. Green tea, you'll add it to cooler water at about 80 degrees. You'll take it out after about 3 minutes. White tea, you'll add it to water even cooler than that, and you'll take it out even longer after about 7 minutes. So you're literally just putting it in and taking it out, and you don't add anything else for these teas.
No milk? No.
Not necessarily.
No milk. Is English breakfast tea, is that a black tea?
It's a black tea. It's just a blend. It's just a marketing name for a blend.
It's just, I know, it's just a blend of different teas. But
it'll have two parts. It'll have a strong part and a flavour part.
And that's what makes breakfast tea.
Yeah, so a lot of black teas will have an Assam in it, which will be the strong caffeinated kick up the backside, and then it'll have a more nuanced element to it that will bring in some.
And then is an Earl Grey
flavour?
Is an Earl Grey, is that a white tea?
No, Earl Grey's a black tea.
It's still a black tea.
Yeah. I mean, anything that's black in colour is going to be a black tea.
So it's when you pour it, that's what defines it, right?
No, this is there's a lot of confusion.
Well, Jay.
I know, this is how you learn. You ask.
Now you've got 3 wrong in a row.
Listen, I think a lot of people know a lot about coffee and wine and food and even beers and stuff these days, but a lot of people, we haven't really been told the basic facts on tea in this country because we've always just drunk one type of tea one type of way. But no, I mean, there's basically black tea, green tea, white tea, and a few others. But those 3 core ones, they all come from exactly the same leaf, but a black tea... a white tea, they'll pick the leaf when it's a baby leaf, when it hasn't properly unfurled, and they'll dry it, and that's that. A green tea, they'll pick it when the leaf has come out, and then they'll dry it, and that's that. A black tea, they'll pick it, and then they'll scrunch it in a certain way. They'll break it or they'll roll it, so the leaf is broken, and then it oxidizes. They leave it out in the air for about for about 8 hours, something like that. And just like a banana or an apple, chop it in half. You leave it out in the air, it's going to go dark brown or black. It's exactly the same process. It's oxidization or fermentation. So it's exactly the same leaf, but one is just picked when it's baby, green tea is just picked when it's a leaf, and black tea is picked when it's a leaf, but it's scrunched up and left out in the air. And that's basically it.
And it's amazing how different the flavours are and everything to do with it, even though there's just the slightest change in how you make it.
It's extraordinary, these slight changes. I mean, as you ferment a black tea, it's going to get heavier in caffeine, heavier in flavour, but you're going to lose a bit of the health stuff. So largely there's a sliding scale of, white tea is going to be the healthiest and the least caffeine, coming through green and down to black, and the nutrients and vitamins and minerals and antioxidants and catechins.
I'm going to come on to that in a mo. It's a great interest
through green and white teas.
Now the next tea packet you've given me is Gen Maicha?
Gen Mai Chai, not bad. Japanese brown rice tea.
You said it was
popcorn. This is
also called
Japanese popcorn tea.
Yeah.
What are the white bits? Popcorn?
Well, yeah.
Are they really?
Yeah, they are.
Well, like
really.
The cinema popcorn.
Yeah. Exactly.
Butterkiss, rah, rah, rah.
It's actually...
I've never seen tea look like this. This is multicoloured.
This is the builder's tea of Japan.
Have a butcher's look at that, James.
Gen Mai Chai is a bit like a builder's tea of Japan, I guess, in that high quality sencha tea was very expensive.
High quality
sencha is like the most common Japanese green tea.
Okay.
And what they mostly drink in Japan. Right. But it's expensive. So in rural areas and poorer areas, the people used to mix it with toasted brown rice to fill it out. And that's where Gen Mai Chai came from. So and now it's become very trendy and very cool. It's a good quality green tea mixed with toasted brown rice. And it sounds weird, but it's actually really, really drinkable. It's got almost a hint of the taste of sort of ricicles or...
I have to say, the first thing that strikes me the most is how different they look.
Yeah.
Even just the tea, because I'm guessing the brown bits and the white bits in the Gen Mai Chai, that's the rice and the popcorn.
Yeah, correct.
But even just the leaves, the little bits of green are so much darker in the Gen Mai Chai, and then in the
just because you know how to pronounce it, can you stop flogging it?
Korakunda.
Yeah.
The Korakunda is like really light coloured.
Well, that's right. I mean, the white teas are going to be lighter in colour, lighter in flavour, and more sophisticated. But even within green tea, you do get light green and dark green, and it's crazy. The Japanese have, it's such a fine art for some of their teas. And the reason why a lot of them are darker is they will shade grow them for the last month or 2 months. So they'll actually put these bamboo shades above them, and what this happens is it makes the plant push more chlorophyll into the leaves and makes them go dark. And so the Japanese do they sort of disrupt the natural process of the plant by shading it to make it more intense.
There's another packet. There's another packet there. What's that? Another pack.
Yeah. Oh, this is
let's see how well I can screw up the pronunciation of this.
You should be okay on this one.
Detective Russ.
Darjeeling.
Yay.
All right. Now, what I like here is, like it would just say, Yorkshire tea. Or, it's Yorkshire tea. This is Darjeeling, and it says second flush.
Yes.
God only knows what it means. We're going to find out. Second flush 2018.
Yeah.
Tumsong Estate Organic, finest, highest grade, and then we get into, I don't know what, the FTGFOPI. Oh, hang on. Finest, tippy, golden, flowery, orange, pico 1. I have no idea what I just said.
Yeah.
But it means it's very good, right?
Lots of words, lots of letters, generally.
Yeah, loads of stuff. What does second flush mean?
Second flush means...
Don't say it, James. Keep it to yourself. Just keep it as a thought. Don't go there. That's a proper guest here. Knows what he's talking about.
Second flush is the second pick of the year, basically. So first flush will be the first spring flush after winter hibernation, and they'll go and pack out the very first leaves. It's a lighter pick. It's very, very sought after, but it's not what we're used to in the UK and in the West. they're very, very more delicate flavours, and a lot of them are kept within the homegrown countries. Second flush, you're getting a more mature plant, and the flavour's really starting to come through. And second flush Darjeeling is the Darjeeling that we all know in the UK, flavour-wise, and is the one that we've sort of selected over the years in our sort of tea.
Now, should we? I'm very particular about that. We've got an expert here. Got to ask these things because it's about well-being, and if having a cup of tea cheers you up, makes you feel better, makes you feel in a better mood, well, I'm all for it. Totally. Do we warm the pot? What do we do? Do we do all that stuff
to get into a better mood from tea?
No. But do we? No. But I'm saying why we're talking about tea, for example, is because it has beneficial properties, even if they're psychological.
Yeah.
And whether they're physiological, I don't know. Are they? Are there meant to be good health things coming from tea?
There are absolutely supposed to be. I'm not a doctor, but from all of the anecdotal evidence and an increasing amount of scientific reports, tea has multiple health benefits, direct health benefits, and can kind of do no wrong. And it's 0 calorie, and it's good to swap out for something that's unhealthy. But it's full of vitamins. It's got vitamin C, vitamin K. It's full of minerals. It's got loads of fluoride and potassium and calcium.
Really? I knew none of this.
Yeah. It's good for your teeth and bones. It's obviously packed with antioxidants, as we know about, which sort of help fight free radicals and cell damage. Some tea brands make bolder claims. I don't know, but it certainly on the health front, it seems to do no harm and quite possibly quite a lot of good. In terms of mental health, I think it's wonderful. It's not just for me time, but for social time. It's sort of with tea. There seems to be more of a break for me personally. I find if I'll have a coffee, and I do enjoy a coffee, I'm going to be drinking it for productivity and for getting on with things and for powering. Whereas for tea, for me, it's a step back, and it's.
You always have a cup of tea with your friends, don't you?
You kind of do, and it is a tea break, and also it's weird. There was a time when tea breaks were being really pushed by the state of being something really important for productivity, because the caffeine in tea is slow release. It's a 3-hour gradual alertness rather than a coffee caffeine, which is a quick hit and a come down afterwards. So in terms of productivity, it works really, really well. But the coolest thing for me, sort of chemical-wise, in terms of mental well-being, is this L-theanine product, which is rarely found in nature but exists naturally within the tea leaf, and it promotes alpha waves in the brain. It's actually the same effect as meditation, and it's a chemical within tea called theanine, not to be confused with thiamine, which is obviously vitamin B12. But it actually does induce a feeling of well-being. So for one individual...
Is that in all... Well, there's only one type of tea, right?
Yeah, in all tea plants, so to lesser and greater degrees, depending on production and the type of tea and the quality of the leaf, but it's always there.
It's there.
Yeah.
If you, and I'm not asking you to be critical of the mass brands, because they are they've been around forever. No, they've been, absolutely. But do they have the same, because they're mass produced, and obviously yours is much more bespoke, I think that'd be the phrase.
Yeah.
Do they have the same? Could you look for the same effects, or is that kind of thinking you're stretching it?
No, you could absolutely. It's all coming from the tea plant and the tea production processes, and they haven't changed a huge amount, and the integrity of a lot of the elements within the tea should still be there in most teas, but it as to how much will vary hugely as to how long, how well the quality of the leaf to begin with, how well it's been looked after and preserved, how it's produced, how it's stored at home even. But simple things like, for example, within a tea bag, that's the lowest, the smallest, the finest pieces of tea you will find within the grading system. It's called dust or fannings, is what's...
Is that, like, when someone says to me dust, I think bad?
It's a term.
Is that a good term or a bad term?
Well, it's just a term for the smallest particles within the grading system of the size of leaf. They have these various trays within the sifting process, and the big bits will stay at the top, and the middle-sized bits go in the middle, and the dust comes out the bottom, and the dust will largely go into tea bags. And part of that is because it's the cheapest, and part of that is because it actually works for tea bags, because it's smaller pieces, lower, will give you a greater surface area over the same volume, so it means it's going to be quicker infusing and stronger infusing. So basically you're going to get a quick, strong hit, but it also degrades more quickly while you have it in storage. So if it was picked a year ago and it's very, very small pieces, then it's going to degrade and lose a lot of its health properties. So whole leaf will retain a lot more of the health properties than a small chopped up tea bag tea pieces.
And is it 1 teaspoonful per person? Because I'm thinking, this is a completely personal, self-centered question, because I just wanted to know if I'm going to get some tea. You're kind of talking me into it here. Then if I'm going to make it in my pot, is it 1 teaspoon? I don't know. What is it?
The old adage is 2 teaspoons and 1 for the pot, if it's a sort of a family pot or a big pot, which would be sort of 3 teaspoons. But I think you're right. For one person, and you get these small little one-person pots now, a lot of people have them on their desks at work or whatever. I think 1 teaspoon in there is absolutely plenty. It'd be probably about between 3 and 5 grams. And this is one of the areas where I don't really understand the barrier in terms of cost for the person drinking it. Because you're looking, even if you take some of the world's finest teas, you're looking at the difference of putting 2p into a cup for a cup of tea at home on a tea bag or something, versus you might be putting in 8p with a really, really fine tea.
Is that all?
And then it's like
Really?
people will go and spend however much on the high street. You could probably go up to 20p if you were really pushing it, on some of the world's finest teas, and it's sort of, it's 20p, and yet people will walk down the high street and pick up a hot cup there and spend whatever. So I don't think it's hugely challenging price-wise to occasionally go and try some of these more exotic or rarer or weird and wonderful flavours.
Now, coming back to you, Adrian Lee, do you feel more satisfied? Because so many people listening to this and thinking, okay, that's good. Has he fulfilled the gaps? Has he filled the gaps that were missing in what was a very successful PR career?
It's the best thing that I think I've ever done. It's the thing I'm most proud of, which is, and it's mine. It feels, I loved, and I still do some PR, and that's fine. But in terms of meaningful takeout and being proud of what I'm doing, and I've never had a feeling like I do with the tea, and especially when you invest time and years, and it doesn't feel like a huge investment because I really enjoy doing it, and it takes me places I would never have got. I feel privileged.
Does your
to
wife
be part
travel
of
with
this
you?
world. Yeah, absolutely. We both love our travel, and this takes us right off the beaten track, up mountains and places we're so lucky.
Gorgeous places. I was looking at the pictures of your trip to Darjeeling on Little Sparrow website. I was like, wow,
we're
this place
honoured, and
looks
we get to
amazing.
stay on these estates and meet these people, and they're also hospitable, and we went over to. We're a very, very small company in the big scheme of things, and we went over to visit one of our suppliers in Japan, and there's only 2 of us, and they'd shut the factory, put a massive banner out the front, welcome Adrian and Yin, and they were all waiting at the front of the factory for us and spent the entire day showing us around. Yeah, so I mean, it's a wonderful, wonderful world, but sort of fulfillment-wise, I'm just really proud. It makes me really, really happy when I introduce people to exploration or new things, and they can get a bit of pleasure out and maybe some health, and it just feels like I'm doing something actually real, and it's the thing that's made me most proud of all my work. And I've done some big and some big sexy things, and working with a lot of celebrities and etc. But this is by far the favourite thing that
I think out of everything that you've said, which has been, I've found fascinating, right? Everything that you've said, the last 3 sentences are the most telling of it all. And that's the sort of thing that I personally would draw out of it, because for me, it's almost irrelevant what the product is. It's the feeling of, we're only here for certain number of years, you never know what's round the corner, whether it be a bus or illness or maybe absolutely nothing. But there does come a time when so many people go, I just don't feel fulfilled. I'm doing okay, which is a very fortunate position. Let's be honest, it's a fortunate thing these days. So I'm doing okay. Yes. But working with celebrities, it's like, so what? Yeah. So what? Am I feeling that I've reached my potential? This is what I really want to do, and in a way, I'm get the feeling from you that you feel you're giving something back, which I agree with, by the way. I don't, it's like you haven't just come, what is really interesting, especially as you had this huge PR career, as you haven't come in and just blatantly flogged the products to us, which I would have had no objection to because I live in the real commercial world. No, but I don't have a problem with that. I'm going out and flogging, promoting my book absolutely mercilessly. Of course I am. It's a commercial venture. People would expect me to do so. But it's the fact that you're saying, I feel I'm giving something back in a very hurried, uncaring world. The fact that you can sit down for even 10 minutes, for God's sake, it's not going to change the world. 10 minutes and do something for yourself with a cup of tea, which sounds so ridiculously British, but, in an increasingly vicious 24/7 world where you can't switch off, it's a lovely thing to do.
Yeah, I mean it's so true. It's given me a lot of happiness. It's taken me places I'd never been, and it feels like a friend that I'll always have now as well. When I started it, I didn't know whether it would be a business or a hobby or something for a period of time and then change. But I know. I now know that.
You now know your tea.
Yeah, I do, and it's nice to be something of an expert in an area, but in an area that is endlessly fascinating, and that millions of people take genuine pleasure.
When you wake up in the morning, though, it's you kind of look forward to your day.
I genuinely do, and it's weird, but sometimes I'll go and do a market somewhere and I'll be stood in the cold on a market stall and I won't even take the price of my table, and I'm still happier doing that than flogging some of the services I've flogged for other people in the past. So it's kind of.
But I wouldn't degrade that, because it also is what the world. I don't sit here poo-pooing, going, "Oh, you did this." I think what you did in the PR field, it's my world, and I admire that. But I get that. It's amazing you could be standing there in the freezing cold and London rain or whatever at Maltby Market, thinking, "I didn't even cover the rental cost of the table, but I'm happy." That is a huge leap.
It's the long game, really, with this. And like you said, I genuinely care about Little Sparrow tea and all of my products, and so in a way, it's there as my sanity check against the rest of my life. In that, this is kind of the one thing that I really understand. I really know what I'm doing with this product and to these people, and the chance to have conversations with people, quality conversations about something, and people are genuinely interested and often don't have a huge amount of information about tea, and so just the chance to have those conversations and move things on a bit and maybe open people's minds to a few new things.
I tell you what, you've definitely found your calling. The passion you talk about tea with, it's like, it makes me want to get involved in tea. If you were put on this planet to
I'd be happy if you just made a cup.
I used to be rock and roll.
Involved in tea.
No, I don't know what happened, but yeah, I absolutely, I love this area in this world, and it's great when you find something that you're really interested in. But you're absolutely right. When I began, it could have been anything. The point was really just to get started with something.
Great.
It's an amazing thing. We've been chatting to Adrian Lee. His tea, it's like a little haiku I did there, is Little Sparrow. You can, apparently he's so modest about it, but you go online, you find Little Sparrow, there's 250 to choose from. You can't go wrong. Huge thanks to Barry Stickins, who was as wonderful as I thought he would be, but probably even better. Dave Dawson for cracking us all up with his book, Dear Mr. Popstar. Manning the desk wonderfully and getting things far too right. Boy wonder producer James Blake doing his little dance. I'm Russ Kane. Until we meet again, have fun.